Greetings, everyone. Happy 2025, and welcome to GameFace for the first time in the new year. We're here for episode 417 on SIFTD Games at SIFTD.net. Alongside me to do that, as always, back from a fairly lengthy vacation, is Matt Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Yeah, it's been, almost a month?
Feels that way. I mean, we did our last shows. Yeah, I guess it has been. Yeah. So,
Christmas on Wednesday messes all the timing of things up.
it ruined everything. It screwed everything up. New Year's was on, like, the middle of the week.
Yeah, I mean, that happens when the thing a week before it is also in the middle of the week.
Yeah. We're back, though. It's our first episode of 2025. You may have expected a bunch of different stuff for this episode. That's probably all going to happen in next week's episode. I have been jamming behind the scenes to get a bunch of stuff done for our new sort of version of GameFace for 2025. That's going to take place next week. You may be watching from YouTube as well. You may be wondering, well, Shane said they're going to start streaming the show on YouTube. We are. That's also starting next week. There's some stuff we have to work out there with logistics as far as like how the stream gets archived and how quickly we can take it offline once the stream is... Anyway, a bunch of boring logistics stuff that we're working on basically behind the scenes for that stuff. But all that stuff is on the way. We just want to get out and get our first episode going here for 2025 because it has been a bit. And we wanted to do a show last week, but then there was a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes. And then I threw my back out. I didn't even throw it out. I just woke up and my back was crap. Just today was the first time I woke up and still wasn't walking like an old man. I have no idea what happened. Like, I know I slept on a different bed for a couple weeks at my mom's house, and then I came back. I don't know.
I can do it.
It's crazy. Like, getting old sucks. That's all I can say. So much stuff has happened since we last saw you guys. In fact, there is a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, honestly, a lot of it has kind of calmed down, Matt. But our city's kind of burning to the ground.
The edges, yeah.
Yeah, the edges of the city. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who reached out to us to check on us and make sure we were okay and make sure that Matt and I was okay. And we are. And we are fortunate where we live. We're kind of landlocked by concrete. Like,
well, I mean, I was ready to go. We were, I was something like 2 miles out from the evacuation zone for the fire in the hills.
Yeah.
I went out to get gas and pick up some, like, small litter pans and things in case I needed to take the cats out and go. And it was you couldn't see any. It was the smoke was everywhere. I went to the gas station. It was completely full of people. They were all on the way
freaking out,
evacuating from further up north.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was very everybody got out and like kind of directed things together and got shit done. People figure it out when the chips are down usually.
LA definitely came together, and that was really inspiring to see.
But it
sure.
It was weird. It was weird out there that night. It was like
which night?
It was like Wednesday night when everything was popping off.
The crazy night where we had the 100-mile-per-hour winds.
No, that was the night after.
Oh,
I mean the night before nothing was happening here. It was the night after that the fire started on Hollywood Hills and over on Ventura.
You mean
Boulevard.
happening here where you live?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was completely different.
Yeah,
the first day was crazy for us, and then the second day was even crazier.
The Palisades are way over west
where I live. Yeah.
And then Altadena's way northeast
where Marcus lives. And you guys may have noticed that we have the GoFundMe pinned for Marcus Beer and his wife. If you don't know, Marcus's house was burned down in the LA fires. Him and his wife's house was burned down, and it's gone.
Yeah, to the foundation.
I mean, click on the GoFundMe in the chat, and you can see a picture of what's left of their house. It's nothing but a chimney. It is insane. They lost everything. And so they started a GoFundMe a couple days ago. We have it pinned to the chat. So if you got a little extra money banging around and you want to help Marcus Beer, our old friend Marcus Beer, it'd be great if you could contribute to their GoFundMe. Again, they lost everything. And I do want to preface, just for full disclosure, they are insured. So their home will be eventually rebuilt in like 3 years, they're thinking, or something like that.
2-3 years.
But all the rest of their stuff was not covered. So all Marcus's games, his electronics, his gear, his consoles, all that stuff is gone. His collection from his whole life is gone. And Marcus has been collecting games for 50 years or something like that. They lost everything. So if you can find it in your heart and you have a little bit of extra money banging around, please hit up that GoFundMe. And we're going to keep pushing this until they close the GoFundMe to make sure that they hit their goal. So thanks to, I know I mentioned this already, in Ask Shane Anything this week. Thanks to people who have already donated. Their total is getting close to what they were hoping for. So maybe we can just help kind of push it up over the edge here with GameFace and other stuff that we're doing for them here on SIFTD. So awful. I do have video footage of what it looked like on my deck of my place. And here it is. This is standing on my deck. So that shows you how close the fires were to me. Literally 2 miles away.
Yeah, you're like diagonally. Yeah, you're about 2 miles away from that.
I mean, you can see
They evacuated down to San Vicente in northern Santa Monica, and they had evacuation warnings down to Wilshire, which I've never seen.
It's insane.
I mean, there are always wildfires somewhere in California. There have been wildfires in the surrounding LA area. There have been wildfires in Topanga Canyon, and Laurel Canyon. Like, that's happened multiple times. But I've never seen the evacuation zones get down to the city before. Like, they evacuated Hollywood and Highland.
I mean, you can see how close
the Chinese theater got evacuated. I know. That's never happened before.
They evacuated up to Brentwood, which is insane.
Yeah, Bel Air was a couple days later. Like, because that fire kept spreading out of control because it's in inaccessible areas. The wind, these winds are unprecedented. Like, there have never been 80-mile-an-hour Santa Anas before. The air support was grounded that first day. That was really what did it. Was like. Yeah. Like, fighting fires in those hills and in that terrain, you have to use helicopters. You have to use the airdrops, and they couldn't that first night. And so all they could do was let it burn. And it's nothing you can do. Like, as Jon Stewart said, the fire fucked a tornado.
It really did. Watching the news at night, it was literally like the newscasters. First of all, props to local LA news. Amazing job that they did. Amazing job that they did. I saw footage of these people who were getting swept off their feet by the wind. And I saw other footage where there was literally tornadoes of fire around them. They're standing there trying to report. I saw this one clip where they were at a nursing home and they're trying to get the people from the nursing home out, and there's not enough people to help them. So their gowns are flying up over their heads and they're being exposed on live television naked. It was insane. So you saw the footage from my deck. That's the first day. It got so bad, we couldn't see the sun. The sun was completely blotted out by smoke.
Yeah, the day after, was it Thursday, there was no daylight here.
I've never seen anything like this. It is absolutely insane. And you're right, it's all about the winds. Because the winds spread the fire like crazy, and to your point, made sure that our fire people could not do anything. Also, LAFD, huge freaking props. You guys are gods.
Yeah, for all the whining about whatever, they seem to be doing just fine. They knocked out the Sunset Fire, the Ventura Fire, or the Sunswept Fire, controlled the Kenneth Fire. They all did all that in one day.
Thanks to all the people who came here too. There was crews coming from Mexico. The Canadian people that came in were lifesavers. Their pilots were scooping up water out of the Pacific and dropping it onto the fires like a boss.
Well, we apparently we have a deal with them. Apparently, where we basically use those giant aircraft while they're
off season. Yeah.
Which we call some ridiculous. I think they're called VLATs, which stands for Very Large Air Tanker. Because
I've learned a lot about this whole thing over the last week and a half. Things we've had fires before. Nothing like this, man. This was scary for everybody. It was scary. Even where I lived, people just kept. I think what made me more scared is how people kept calling me and texting me and being like, Shane. My buddies in Philadelphia were watching the radar, and they kept posting images of the map showing where the fires were, and then a little pin where I was, and they're like, get out of there, Shane, get out of there. They didn't understand. They're like, it's so close to you, what are you doing still at your place? And I'm like, you don't get it, man. Literally, it's too. If we got hit with that fire, the world's over. Armageddon is what it's going to take for us to get hit by a fire at our place. So people don't understand. They're like, mileage-wise, you're so close, but there was no chance of it.
It's not like you're in the woods.
Right. There's no wood to burn.
Yeah, it's
the fear is the embers floating and landing on the roof and catching the building on fire.
Yeah, my roof is tile.
Yeah.
So it's not, this isn't a very flammable house, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said to some of my friends that were worried and stuff, I'm like, yeah, if the fire gets to me, Hollywood is gone.
The world's over,
like,
pretty much.
LA's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what to tell you. But
The other sick part, too, was just watching all the lies about what was happening here. I'll just be honest with you. I may just be leaving social media, period. I can't take it. Like, every platform is just lies. It's just lies, misinformation, disinformation. Now, a bunch of them aren't going to fact check anymore.
and nothing's gonna matter anymore.
It's insane.
Like, I'm still seeing people repeat the stupid thing about how the Canadian fire trucks were stopped for emission testing.
Yeah.
No, they were not. Like, that was debunked within an hour, and it's still circulating.
And then the crappy part is, I went to Blue Sky to try to escape all the lies and the misinformation and disinformation, and all Blue Sky is people posting all the lies and disinformation from the other platforms and saying, that's wrong. I don't even want to see it. I don't want to see this crap. I don't want to poison my brain with this crap. And there's no escape. There's no escape from it. And I'm stuck around for the fires, but I mean, I'm seriously thinking about just leaving all social media, because it is literally, all of it has become a cesspool that's used to manipulate weak-minded people, and I can't take it. I can't take it. So this has just been an insane week. Again, thanks to everybody who is reaching out on the site, reaching out on social media. That was one case where it was a good thing. But for example, like, you can't even get good out of social media anymore. Like, I don't use Twitter anymore, but I went there just to post Marcus's GoFundMe. And I was like, hey, Marcus's house burned down. If you can help, please help. 19 likes. I have 6,000 followers. It got 19 likes. You can't even...
nothing like that comes up through the algorithm anymore.
Because it's good. Because it's good for people. Anyway, thanks to anyone who's donated to their GoFundMe. Please, again, it's pinned to our chat. If you can, please donate. Also, I should add that we did move our SIFTD account over to Blue Sky. We still have our account on Twitter, but we do now have an account on Blue Sky. It would really be awesome if you guys could all go over there. Like, that's the only social media platform I could even kind of tolerate. We would love to be able to go over there and never have to use Twitter again. But obviously it could be detrimental to our small business, which really sucks. So I'm just caught between a rock and a hard place here, people. I'm trying to do the best that I can. So anyway, if you guys do go over to Blue Sky, we're there. Follow us. We're going to make sure that we're posting the same exact stuff there as we're posting on our Twitter account. And hopefully we can wean off of Twitter and get to Blue Sky. So we're just promoting there. That would be awesome. So again, if you guys head over there, look for SIFTD, you'll find it. You can find myself as well. Matt, have you gone there yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I think. I don't know if I'm over there under a pseudonym.
Okay. So you're lurking right now.
I'm probably not going to be a public presence on
okay.
Sky.
All right, fair enough.
I more or less agree with you on the use of social media at this point.
I don't get anything out of it. I've reconnected with all the people from high school at this point. If I want to talk to them or they want to talk to me, they can. I've had the same phone number for literally 25 years. People can find me if they want to. I get nothing out of social media anymore other than watching our society be ruined.
Yeah, I mostly use it to keep an eye on the dumb shits.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to know about the dumb shits anymore. I just want them to go away. Like, I'm tired of it.
They're not going away.
Well, they will if I ignore them. They won't be negatively impacting my mental health.
Wait for it.
Yeah, because they'll probably come over to Blue Sky just to be trolls or whatever. But anyway, it has been an insane couple weeks. Hopefully you can understand why we didn't do a show last week. Again, my back was horrible. I couldn't walk for like 2 days. I just laid on the couch in pain for the first 2 days. And then 3 days after that, I'm walking around like hunched over. It was awful. I don't know if you guys have ever had a bad back, but it is like the worst. You can't do anything. Like, even the simplest things, like putting something in the trash. It's painful. Anyway, it's been a crazy week or so here in Los Angeles. Let's check in with you guys. Hopefully your guys' lives have been a lot more normal than ours have been. Let's see what you guys are saying, though. Let me see if I can bring it up like this. First of all, a lot of you guys hooked us up with Twitch Prime, and I want to scroll back and thank all you guys for that because, again, it makes a huge, huge difference for us. Look at Cinetike dropping the Tier 1 subs. That's awesome. Thank you. JM Rain dropping the subs. You guys, obviously, a lot of you guys are ready to resubscribe to Twitch Prime because we've been away for so long. And as we can see, a lot of you have. Let's see. Don Lionheart, thank you. AJ the Legend, thank you. Janderman 1978, thank you. Who else we got in here? Userfriendly.exe, Metal Gear Jimmy, JReedVic7, Glottis21, Jamray99, Fried times 100, thank you. Justin Horman, as always, thank you. Happy New Year to you, brother. Hope you had a good holiday season. 91 months, that's incredible. Rosencrantz, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. Mitchell Ness, thank you for Twitch Prime. Again, Jam Rain, thanks for dropping the subs in there. The Legacy, Nox Aeternitis, Cinetite, thanks again. Who else we got? Hilda Starscream, Andy T. Monahan, Minority Games, thank you. Who else? One Supermaster Gamer, thank you. David Nordic, thank you. Who else we got in here? All right, I think that's it. But as the show goes on, I know people will join the stream, and we'll get to thank them as well. So thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. And again, don't forget that GoFundMe is pinned to the top of our chat. Click on that. Go donate if you can. Yeah, Zit Saber Juno says the insurance will find out whatever excuse to not pay out. They're already having that problem. Userfriendly.exe says Matt's mic is not picking him up. Is it better now? I saw Matt moved his mic. Is his audio okay?
I don't know. I didn't see another comment about it.
Let us know if his audio is up to scratch. We can get it fixed before we get into the bulk of the show here. Norix Nessie, thank you. Link So Good, thank you. It's awesome. Erebus says, my 17-year-old cat died and my wife broke her leg. Oh, jeez, man. And then Marcus and all the other stuff that's been going on. That's awful, man. I'm sorry. I hope your wife's okay. Matt's off to what he normally is, off to a soft start. Yeah, you talk soft and you build up as you go. Cinetite, Matt's back to his usual self. Okay.
Because when you get here, I generally haven't said anything yet all day.
Right, yeah. And it takes a little while to get warmed up. A couple things about GameFace before we get going. We are going to change GameFace. And I thought about this a lot over the holidays, and I've thought about this a lot over the last few years, and we've tried to kind of change the show drastically, and we tried to do it with SIFTD 2.0, and then COVID hit. There's always been something that's happened to keep us from doing it. But here's the thing. GameFace is going to change. It is going to be a shorter show going forward. It's probably going to be an hour and a half. Basically, what GameFace is going to be is just our headlines going forward. And then Matt and I are going to record our reviews offline. And we are going to edit those reviews very well, professionally, and hopefully with at least 2K footage and possibly 4K footage. The show's too long. It's a 3-hour show. We have been violating the laws of insanity for a while here on GameFace, where we're doing the same thing and trying to expect a different result. And I know some of you guys may not be happy that the reviews are going to leave GameFace. Some of you guys are going to be happy. We've heard people say that, like, I don't even watch the reviews on GameFace. I just watch the headlines or whatever. So our patrons, you're going to get better content and more content going forward. The show itself on YouTube, it's going to be shorter. It's going to be basically just our headlines. We're not going to be reviewing games on GameFace anymore. It's just, when people see a 3-hour show, I just think it's intimidating. I think people see it, they're like, I'm not clicking on that. And I just feel like it's been a detriment to the show succeeding. And again, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, and we're going to stop that. So
we learned that from Far Cry 3.
Yeah. So anyway, look, I know some of you guys are going to be upset about that, but again, our patrons, you're going to get better reviews from us. They're going to be better organized. They'll be organized by category, like our game evals are. The footage will be better. It will show more of what we're talking about. It's not going to be perfect, because that's just a ton of work, because Matt and I's discussions on each game are 20 to 30 minutes long. But it's going to more closely resemble what we're talking about instead of just running random B-roll underneath what we're discussing. Now, one thing I will miss, Matt, is sometimes the B-roll like sparks a conversation between us. And that may go away a little bit, but I'll just make sure I'm better prepared for the discussion in general and make sure I can keep things on track. So anyway...
Yeah, I will miss the B-roll just in the sense sometimes I see something in the B-roll that I'm like, oh yeah, I want to talk about that too.
Right, me too. Yeah, and that is one thing I think may make the content maybe a little weaker, but like, this is our flagship show. We need this show to do better. It needs to do more views. It needs to drive more people to our Patreon. The bottom line is we need to make more money. And I spent pretty much the entire time away figuring out how we can make more money. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to monetize our podcast, which is just this maddening thing that should be so easy that isn't, and you have to work with each individual platform to get ads in your podcast. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the details. I hope you guys understand why we're making the change to the show. This will probably be the last episode of GameFace as you have come to know and love it. And I think over time, you guys will probably enjoy sitting on a stream for 90 minutes instead of 3 hours once you kind of get used to the change. And again, the content is not going away. It's just going to be repackaged and better packaged for you guys to consume. And our patrons, I think, ultimately, once they get used to it, are going to enjoy the changes a lot more. And I think it will draw more eyeballs to GameFace. And then ultimately to our Patreon at patreon.com/sifted. So anyway, Mitchell Ness is asking now, okay, what's up with the fantasy draft? So next week, Matt and I will be doing our fantasy draft. We will also be kicking off the Sifted Fantasy Challenge. Once again, congratulations to Tomb Raiders, who won last year's Sifted Fantasy Challenge. But we'll be kicking that off next show, and Matt and I will be drafting our teams next Tuesday. So that's all going to be happening in the very near future. Mazzo Ren, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. It looks like the feedback from most people is pretty positive on the changes to the show. Neville-ish, post shorter clips on the YouTube channel. I don't want to get into a back and forth here because we've done that. Like, we did that for like a year and a half. We were taking clips out of GameFace and just running just our review of this or just this topic. It really did nothing. It created a bunch of work and a bunch of hassle. And ultimately, all those clips added together, plus the show, it took views away from the full episode of the show, like drastically. So we've tried everything other than completely changing the format of GameFace. And that's what we're going to do. So that's just the way it is, folks. Hopefully you guys are down with it. Most people, it seems like y'all are positive. Shane A, 28, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Okay. I think that's it. Actually, not a lot of feedback about changing the show at all. Threadzilla, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. We have your back. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that, Red Fox 1980. I think it'll be better. I think it'll be better for everybody. Also, it will take some weight off of me preparing for this show. You guys have no idea the amount of pre-production I do for this show to be able to do these reviews live. I have to sort through like 3 hours of footage and cut that down to 18 minutes to create the B-roll to bring in here. And ultimately, I can cut out a lot of that work and make the show better, I believe anyway. So that's the plan for 2025. There will eventually be a new show open, stuff like that. We're working on new art. Our thumbnails are going to change. You're going to see Matt and I's goofy faces in our thumbnails. Again, I just want to say for the record, I hate that crap. I hate it. I have fought it for 10 years, putting my face in thumbnails. But at a certain point, we're wrong. I'm wrong. Like, that's what people want. And you can look at study after study that shows that people click on videos with faces in them way more than they do just... And I think our thumbnails look awesome, by the way. I go to our YouTube channel or I go to like our show pages on Sifted and just scroll down like, our thumbnails are kick-ass. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So we're going to fall in line with the rest of the goofy YouTube crap. You're going to see Matt and I's faces in the thumbnails going forward. So... it's just, we got to survive. We need to make more money. You guys can see our Patreon. We can't survive like this. So we've got to do whatever we can to try to survive. We need to get more people who watch us on YouTube to help pay for the content. That's really what it comes down to. I've been trying. Whatever I'm doing isn't working, so we're going to change what I'm doing to try to make it work. Mountain Lifter, will all the reviews be in one video or split into, they'll be separate. It will just be the review for this game and then just the review for this game. And again, that will also help us on YouTube because we'll get separate ad views for each of those videos instead of just like, the other part too is like, you know, when we put up GameFace on YouTube, I have to go through and watch the whole show and meticulously place all the ads, and like half the time they don't run anyway. Anyway, I think you can understand why we need to make this change. I'm about to go nuts doing things this way, and it's not improving. I'm working my ass off, and it's doing nothing, and I can't keep doing it. So we got to change it. Mighty Pony Girl says, instead of showing your faces, you showed your feet. Okay. I would rather do that, actually. Surgeon Ed, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Darmis, thank you for Twitch Prime. See if we got anything else that slipped in here before we get going. Iviz, I think, was the last one. Okay. How do you feel about all that stuff, Matt?
Sure.
Okay. We'll see how it goes. It may be a little bumpy at first. Like everything, change is always hard at first. You have to get through the process and work things out, and it'll be a little bumpy for Matt and I as well. Eventually, we'll get it all sorted out. Everything will fall into a pattern, and everybody will be happy, I think. At least I think so. Erebus says, instead of showing your feet, show your babes. If I had any, I would. I'd put them in the thumbnail right away. I guarantee it would do at least 5 more views. Because babes always do it. Okay. I think with that, we're ready to get into... Oh, actually, we're not ready to get into headlines yet. I have a couple other things to talk about, actually. So, Pactor Factor is shooting this Friday. There'll be a call for questions for that tomorrow morning, probably. Here's the thing. Since we're doing Pactor Factor Live, which we launched last year, which is like... basically, we do episodes of Pactor that are like way more timely. Stuff happens, and the next day we're talking to Pactor, and then we're getting it out to you guys, which I'm kind of surprised at the lack of response to that. It really hasn't like bumped up the views for the show much. It's way more timely now than it ever was, and that was the thing that everybody complained about, and we changed that, and it didn't seem to do anything. But anyway, because we do Pactor Factor Live, we don't need as many questions now. I used to go shoot Pactor Factor. We'd take 16 questions into the shoot session. Now we take like 8. So your questions, you got to be on point. It's a lot harder to make the cut for Pactor Factor now as far as asking questions, because half of the episodes now are questions that we ask him just on the fly as stuff is happening, and it makes the show way more timely. So anyway, once the call goes out, put in your best effort, because you're going to have to get your question in the show going forward. It will kind of become like a badge of honor again. I feel like that kind of waned over time because we were doing so many episodes, but I think we're going to go back to that, and I think it'll give more value and get people more excited about asking questions and trying to get their name into the show again. So that's happening. What else? Okay, that really is it for our housekeeping. And just glad that we're still here, Matt, that LA is still here. It was really kind of touch and go there for a couple days, where I really wondered if it was going to jump into Brentwood and into Santa Monica and take out like half of Santa Monica. Like, ultimately,
it could have gone south and at least spread down to the pier and all that area.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's crazy how the fire jumped a 5-lane road on the PCH and burned all the houses on the shoreline. On the beach. The fire jumped over a road, went down a hill, and burned houses on the beach. That's insane.
But it didn't get the psychiatrist house from GTA 5.
No, it didn't actually. It's still there. It is weird too.
It's weird to look at if you look at the there's like a huge like 8K satellite image that you can zoom into and literally see in the individual houses and everything. And you look through the burned areas, and it's like burned house, perfect house. Perfect.
Not touched.
Like everyone,
it like went around it because the house on the other side's burned out.
And sometimes just because those are the old Spanish houses made out of adobe,
right? That aren't as easy to burn. Yeah.
Now like they're probably smoke damaged inside to the point you'd have to
they need to be gutted
and renovate them. But like, it's just fire is a strange beast. You know, as Backdraft said, you're fighting a living thing.
It really is like a beast.
Ways.
Yep. But we're still here. We're still standing. So anyway, let's get on with GameFace. Let's start talking about some video games. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened since we last talked with you guys here on GameFace. We're going to kick things off with undoubtedly, I would argue, the biggest story of the entire break, and that is the Switch 2. There have been so many Switch 2 leaks at this point, Matt. Like, I really wonder if Nintendo has anything left to offer.
Well, the lineup.
I mean, the games, yeah. But I mean, as far as the hardware is concerned, I feel like they discovered that there's like some kind of a mouse sensor on the new Joy-Con now, and the Joy-Con could act as like a mouse.
I mean, it's kind of the last thing it doesn't do.
Pretty much at this point. That was one of the revelations. And then what really happened was at CES 2025, Genki showed up with what it claims is the Nintendo Switch 2 via Mockup.
Genki gonna have a big year between this and the new Tokyo Highway battle.
That's funny. Genki has been a Nintendo partner for decades. Decades. It has worked with Nintendo to create accessories and games for Nintendo platforms. And it showed up to CES with this, what you're seeing right now on your screen. Basically, what it claimed at the time was a perfect mock-up of Nintendo Switch 2. And then other outlets went to Genki's booth, and you started seeing this footage where they actually show it. In a second, they're going to show a comparison here of the size difference between the old Switch and Switch 2. Significantly bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, the screen goes from like 7-something to 8.4 inches, I think. I think those are the specs that leaked anyway. If that holds up, that's where it is, and that's what they based this mock-up off of. So it is significantly bigger. Is it too big now, Matt? Is it getting too big?
I don't care.
You're not going to use it in handheld mode anyway.
No.
I mean, we'll think about the people who will.
The fucking Steam Deck stuff is gigantic, and that sells.
Yeah.
I think they're just realizing you can make them bigger and they'll sell. Like,
that might be it, actually. Yeah.
If anything, it's catching up to like the other handhelds on the market.
Yeah.
In terms of size.
Yep. So anyway, Genki has.
You might as well have a bigger screen if you got a more powerful system because you can run it at a better resolution anyway.
Yeah. So Genki shows up at its CES booth with this mock-up of the Switch and tells everybody it is absolutely based off what this is the Switch 2. This is what it's going to look like. Blah blah blah. And then on Friday, when the show's about to end, Genki issues a statement saying that, actually, we made this mock-up based upon the rumors that were out there. We do not know the exact specs
Yes,
of...
clearly you spent all that money to make that thing without it. We just think maybe. You know.
Or you'd risk your relationship with Nintendo over
Ridiculous.
something that's fake and bunk.
Right.
And so people are like, oh, okay, maybe they were just trying to get eyeballs at CES. And
People, do you not understand how long it takes to have an email argument?
then...
About 3 days.
Well, then we find out yesterday that a Nintendo lawyer, in fact, did roll into CES and, in fact, did go to Genki's booth and did tell them, like, hey, what the hell's going on here?
The fuck?
Yeah, seriously. Just the fact that Nintendo went to CES and went to Genki's booth.
Nintendo does not go to CES.
Right.
Just to reinforce
Yeah.
that. Like, they don't
go there.
No.
In
they
fact,
don't go to TGS. They certainly
Yeah.
don't go to CES.
Yeah. Their lawyer shows up and goes to Genki's booth and is like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Motherfucker got on a plane from Bellevue 5 minutes after they saw this.
And that's how you know it's real.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's all real. So what we're looking at here is the Switch 2.
Because if it wasn't real, they would have just said, like, that's not real.
Right. Nintendo would have issued a statement. They said that, like, we don't comment on unofficial
Right.
whatever. Like, they didn't say it was not real. They just said it's unofficial information.
Yeah. They said, nuh-uh, and they sent a ninja to Las Vegas. That is pretty much confirmation that this is what it is.
Yep. So what do you think now that we pretty much know what the Switch is? I mean, what do you think?
It's another Switch.
I think the Joy-Con look kind of sexy. The new Joy-Con.
I don't have an
I mean,
opinion
they look way more ergonomic.
I mean, we've been around on this before. I don't give a shit about hardware beyond its performance. I do not care what the system looks like. I do not care what the system's color is. I do not care what any of it. I want to see what the games are.
Yeah.
Show me what I'm playing, because I'm not going to give a shit about the system as soon as I find a place for it to sit on the console. Now, I give a little bit of a shit about the PS5 because it's so fucking huge.
Yeah.
But, like, this thing's just going to replace the Switch dock on my thing. I'm never going to look at it again.
I think we have a pretty good idea at the software, though.
I mean, we know we're going to get Metroid Prime 4. We're probably going to get a new Mario, probably Mario Kart 9.
Yeah.
But, like, there's obviously going to be
Animal
more than
Crossing's
that.
pretty much due now.
Somewhere in there.
Smash Brothers will come the next year, probably.
Oh, boy, do I not care about another Smash Brothers.
But I'm saying, I think we have a pretty good idea about the initial rush of software.
I think we know the anchor points. We don't know the whole lineup. There might be some fun things in there.
We don't know third-party stuff really at all.
Yeah.
That's to me is really the X factor. But I don't know.
I mean, they haven't put out a non-remaster in how long? Like, they got to have something up the sleeve we don't know about.
Yeah. And there is an extra button on the controller. You can see below the right analog stick on the right Joy-Con there's an extra button. Nobody knows what that does yet. So that could be one secret that we're still waiting for Nintendo to share with us. But I guess overall, what I would say, Matt doesn't care about hardware, but I do. I'm disappointed that it's just another Switch. Like, Nintendo generally presents one of the few opportunities in our industry to do something special or different with hardware. And again, we don't know all the details about it. There could be something cool with that sensor on the Joy-Con. Maybe it's not used as a mouse. Maybe it's used for something else. And maybe there's some other cool little hidden features about it we don't know yet. But for most intents and purposes, it's just a bigger Switch.
Which is all it needs to be.
It is. And I mean, if you're...
You don't argue with the most popular thing you've ever made.
Yeah. And to be fair, while I'm disappointed, it's the right thing to do. It would be idiotic to do anything else. It's like, Nintendo, I feel like the Switch is the culmination of everything Nintendo has been working towards. Almost its entire career.
Honestly, I think it's good. It's very positive sign that they didn't try to do any stupid human tricks with this thing. Because it proves they finally learned that they finally learned what they have to deliver.
Yeah.
And that's like the Wii U was finally the nail in the coffin, as far as like, we're going to come up with a bunch of weird new things that we're only going to use for 2 titles and never mention it. I mean, that's also sort of what's happening here. Like, I know the Joy-Con's got to be compatible with everything on the Switch 1, but like, half the shit in those things is useless. It's never been used again.
Remember the IR camera that was in that thing?
Yeah, no, I don't. No one remembers that. No one does use that for anything.
It was used for a 1-2 switch and like never used again.
Snipper clips or some shit. And it's just like, I thought that, okay, you could maybe do like House of the Dead or like some like some light gun games or something. That'd be fun. But like, they didn't do anything with that.
No.
And it's just like, okay, then what are we paying all this shit for these fucking things? I mean,
why are the Joy-Con $80?
You're probably adding $30 to the cost of the thing for those
for
things.
stuff we don't use.
But you have to put it all in there because it has to be compatible with all the Switch 1 stuff. So.
Now rumor is that the analog sticks in the Joy-Con are, what are they? There's like a phrase for them. They're called. There's a word for the fancy joysticks that don't drift. Mm-hmm. It supposedly has those. Someone in chat maybe.
If there's one upgrade you're going to make as a Nintendo, it would be that, because it's your main hardware problem.
Matter of fact, reminds us about the Ice Cube Rumble. Remember how they held the Joy-Con? It's supposed to be like an ice cube in a glass.
And I don't, when they did that at the time, I'm like, okay, and
what are you going to do with it? And then they never figured
you're
out.
Like, oh my god, it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, okay, we're never gonna fucking think about it again. So who fucking gives a shit? Like, what is Yakuza gonna put in a bourbon clinking minigame or some shit?
Pretty clever, actually. So anyway, mad news breaking about the Switch. The other rumor swirling right now. In fact, that kid Nate the Hate, who I only really recently discovered, is a leaker, and he has, to be fair, he has been accurate pretty much every time. He published a podcast a couple days ago where he said, and I mean, this is putting your balls on the line. He says the Switch is going to be announced Thursday.
Yeah, 16th.
In like 2 days from today. So he really stuck his neck out there on that one.
I wonder if that does happen. I wonder how last minute that was, because I feel like you're forcing the hand after the CES thing.
Well, so remember Kit Ellis, who used to work at Golan Harris and work with Nintendo and PR, and then eventually they did their podcasts and stuff. He left Nintendo a while ago to just do his own thing on YouTube or whatever. But, he worked there for 5 or 6 years. In fact, he was kind of like Miyamoto's like right-hand man. Like, he set up all of his appointments and everything. But anyway, he said that like he doesn't think it's going to impact Nintendo at all. Mm-hmm. He thinks that like they have a plan, they're gonna stick to it, and no matter what happens.
I think they have a plan, but I'm saying like I think maybe their pre-produced rollout video is gonna run this Thursday instead of next Thursday or the 2 Thursdays from now. That could be. Like there's a point at which you want to control that narrative, and Nintendo is very much about controlling the narrative.
Yep.
I don't believe that Nintendo is that solid.
Yeah,
opaque. Yes, in general, no, Nintendo doesn't care what happens, but like I don't think anyone at Nintendo thought Genki was going to do that.
No, definitely not a partner of decades.
Yeah, like it's one thing if like people are leaking weird little photos out of like the assembly line or some shit, but one of your partners brought a mock-up of your unseen system to the biggest consumer electronics show on the planet, and proceeded to just show it to everybody. Like, you're going to want to jump on that.
Yeah. And then Nate the Hate said that they will launch it May or June-ish. I also predicted in Ask Shane Anything that it would be around June or before June. That was just my prediction. But he says he has information stating that that's going to be the case. So
it sounds like, we never really thought it was going to make Q1. It was going to make Switch 1 March launch, like the first one did. But it does seem... I don't know why, but it seems on point to put it out early in summer, and then you kind of got the production line ready to go for holiday.
You can also start figuring out how many units you're going to need for holiday,
and it gives you time between the launch lineup and the holiday lineup to sort of put something else big out in the holiday. I mean, I assume this thing launches with Metroid and Mario Kart, and your holiday anchor is the new Mario game.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me.
So.
Everything's lining up as far as the dates
another fucking Kirby game. Like, we know there's another fucking Kirby game in here somewhere.
So anyway, that's the madness that's been going on with Switch 2. I mentioned this in Ask Shane Anything, and you guys should be watching that if you're not. Like, I put a lot of work into that. It's not just me sitting there just answering questions. There's a lot of work that goes into that show. So people on YouTube, you should watch Ask Shane Anything. If you don't like it, I'd be surprised. But anyway, I mentioned on Ask Shane Anything like a bunch of this stuff. Like, so some of this may seem redundant if you're watching GameFace and you watch Ask Shane Anything. I apologize for that, but a lot of people, again, don't watch Ask Shane, so I am repeating a little bit of it here. So, but that's the information on the Switch 2 that we have right now. Will it be revealed on Thursday?
Probably. I mean,
you think so?
He's pretty on target.
He is.
He has been recently.
Yeah. I'd give it a 65% chance.
I don't know.
Something like that.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Unless they show any games, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
Like, show me the games.
And they won't. That first thing will
They always show the hardware first, and you'll get a bunch of, models playing it on rooftops and at basketball games and all that shit. And all these use cases that no one would ever actually use because it would run out of batteries in 4 minutes. But, like... Yeah, the young urban professional who comes home and takes his socks off and proceeds to play a golf game that will never be released.
No, he plays the golf game first, and while he's playing, he's taking his socks off because he can't wait, Matt. He's got to get that game in right away, right in the foyer. So anyway, that's the latest.
Except he calls it a foyer.
Foyer. Yeah. That's the latest on Switch 2. Maybe we get a big bomb drop on Thursday. If that's the case, you'll definitely want to watch Ask Shane Anything this week, and I'll be talking about it there, whether you ask me a question about it or not.
He also never turns the lights on. The whole thing is just lit by the outside, the lights of the city.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, there you go. Big Switch 2 news from CES. Other news from CES. NVIDIA kind of was the big story from CES, like it usually is, honestly. It's kind of become like the crown jewel of CES at this point.
Yeah, well, it's the most valuable company on the planet, so
which is
that'll happen.
Who could have ever seen this happening?
The two things I should have done back in the G4 days that I considered doing but didn't was buy a bunch of Bitcoins when they were $100 each and buy a bunch of NVIDIA stock.
Yeah. I remember when I bought a bunch of Apple stock, Ryan Stevens told me that he was choosing between Apple and NVIDIA. And this was years ago, like 10 years ago. And I was like, why? I'm like, why would you choose NVIDIA? He's like, he gave me this long spiel, and I just kind of went in one ear and out the other. And then like 5 years ago, or no, like 4 years ago, I was talking with it. I'm like, man, that NVIDIA stock worked out pretty good for you. And at that point, it had out-earned Apple a little bit. Like, he had been right. And I'm like, you were right. Like, here we are 5 or 6 years later. It has actually out-earned Apple. And then since then, it's just left Apple in the dust.
That's the thing is, like 10 years ago, you couldn't predict that because the reason NVIDIA is so valuable now is because of crypto.
Bitcoin, yeah.
Like you couldn't have predicted that at the time.
You couldn't have predicted AI, that it would be the driver of AI either. And that's really now, because crypto is kind of like, crypto mining is not really a thing anymore.
No, but like NVIDIA remains the card of choice for scams.
Yeah.
So here we are.
And so NVIDIA,
no one in the serious grift community uses anything less than a 4090. You know that.
So NVIDIA had a huge presence at CES 2025, and the big thing, obviously, it finally announced its 50 series GPUs. And there's a couple things about this that really disheartened me personally as someone who just built a gaming PC at the end of 2024.
Well, you shouldn't be because they're kind of shit.
The new ones are?
Yeah.
They are?
Well, they're leaning very hard into DLSS.
Yeah, 4.
But if you just like look at the raw power, you're getting maybe 7 frames a second over a 4090.
Really?
Yeah. They're leaning very hard into AI frame generation, and I will tell you, having gone through a bunch of it ain't that great.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty good, and like you
can tell,
but
though.
the ghosting is insane. It doesn't work properly with HDR. You get like the weird halos and
you can tell.
Like it's better than running subpar, better than running stuttering and stuff, but it is not better than just running through raw power.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've leaned so hard into that with an actual number change to the 50 series,
right?
And basically, like I saw the test, and it's like things that are getting like 30 frames a second on a 4090 are getting 37 or 38 on a 50 series, and like that is not
without DLSS.
That's not without the DLSS on, and that is not a millennial jump.
Oh no, definitely not.
So it feels I'm certainly not gonna jump in upgrading until I see some actual hardware improvement here.
So the 5090 is $2,000. The 5080 is $1,000. The 5070 Ti is $750, and the 5070 is $550. Now I just bought a 4070 for the same price, $550. NVIDIA, when it announced the 50 series cards, claims that the 5070 is the same power as the 4090. And I was like, what? I'm like, I just wasted $550. Like, because my guess is, and I don't know this 100%, DLSS 4 is not coming to the older cards, right? It's exclusive to the 50 series and higher.
That's what they say. But also remember that the games are going to have to support that.
Right.
Which means anything that's already out is probably not going to support DLSS 4.
Right.
So you're only talking about stuff going forward. And I don't know, we don't even know if it's any better than 3.
Now, this is a normal part of the process. GPUs are always going to be better, but this one in particular was a huge leap. Like, NVIDIA is saying DLSS 4 quadruples the frame rates.
Right, but does it look any better? You know?
Probably not. It'll run better, but it won't look better.
I have games that DLSS 3 quadruples the frame rate, but it looks like shit because the ghosting when you turn the camera is unplayable.
No, you're right.
So, the proof is in whatever these things, and like, okay, we're seeing like The Witcher 4 here. Well, by the time Witcher 4 comes out, they'll probably have all the DLSS 4 stuff ironed out, and they'll have a much more powerful card on the market for the same money.
Several people in chat are saying that DLSS 4 does work on the older cards, just not the frame gen, which is what you want.
The multi-frame generation, which is the big push of 4. So what they'll update DLSS to 4.0 or whatever they call it on all the cards, but like you'll only get it's like the ray tracing.
So you'll get the ray tracing, but you won't get the frames.
Well, you'll get the frames. You won't get multi-frame generation.
Okay.
So the idea is that they claim it will be able to lower the flaws of DLSS of frame generation by generating multiple frames simultaneously and picking the best ones. Basically. I see. That's how I understand it to work anyway. So only the next gen, the 50 series and beyond, will be able to do that. But honestly, it's not a $2,000 difference if you already have a high-end 40 series.
Yeah.
By no means. Like, look, if you have a 4080, 4090, you're probably going to be looking at upgrading to a new card in like 2 years. You're probably going to want a new card for Witcher 4 and Elder Scrolls 6.
How much was the 4090?
I can't, at launch?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It wasn't 2,000 though, right?
I don't think so.
I think
it was like 1,700 or something.
Okay, so it was still pretty up there.
It was very expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you could find it for retail when it came out because it instantly was thrown in the crypto mines.
Right.
So I don't actually remember what it was when it came out. 1,600, Cinetech says.
So another $400 for the 5090.
Right, but adjust that for inflation since then.
Yeah. I mean, it's only been a year.
4090? Yeah. I've had a 4090 for 2 years.
So you're right.
That's
so it's been 2. Yeah. So I think for me, it was just I picked the wrong time to build a gaming PC. I should have waited. Because if I waited 4 or 5 months, I could have got the 5070 for the same money. And while it may not
5070?
Yeah. I got my 4070 for $550.
I guess.
I did. Yeah, that was the price.
You'd have to find it though.
Yeah. You're right. That's the other part of it too, is getting one would be really hard at launch. But I do feel a little burned. And again, I get it. That's part of the whole thing. They're going to put out new GPUs that are more powerful, but
you're never going to...
You're always going to get burned a little bit. I feel like I got burned bad, though, this one. I wish I had known. But you never know when they're going to announce the new ones. Like, they don't really tell you.
It had been 2 years. It was pretty expected that you're going to get it. But it's like, again, it's not that much of a jump.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that much of a jump. You're going to run everything just fine.
Well, I did finally play a game this week. That's a PC-only game. That I had to obviously play on my new gaming PC. And you'll see in the B-roll when we talk about it a little bit later, it did look pretty good. I was like, okay, I feel pretty good about the money I spent on my rig playing this game. I just wish there were more of those experiences. So anyway, NVIDIA pretty much took over CES like it usually does. But it feels like the response to what it showed was kind of mixed. How do you feel overall about what they showed?
No real interest.
Yeah.
I mean, probably whatever their 5200 line will be would be when I'm starting to pay attention.
Okay.
Like, it's just not enough of a jump over the 4090 to matter right now. Not for that kind of money.
Okay. And then the final story from CES, we care about anyway, was PlayStation Sony did its usual press conference there, and there's always this little section of that is dedicated to PlayStation. You would think over time it would become half PlayStation because, let's be honest, PlayStation is Sony at this point.
Yeah, but that's not what
CES is for.
PlayStation isn't interested in CES, and CES isn't very interested in PlayStation.
Yeah. And so the announcements for PlayStation, the game division of Sony, was all about cultural stuff, films and TV shows that are coming to various streaming services, theaters. The Last of Us Season 2, they announced the rough release date for that on HBO Max. Then they announced a Horizon Zero Dawn film.
Which implies that the Netflix series is dead.
Right, yeah. But again, another clear example of Horizon being kind of the landmark or the keystone franchise at PlayStation.
Oh, they did such a good job with Uncharted.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So, a Horizon film is coming. Not too surprised by that. I am a little surprised by this next one, though. A Helldivers 2 film is coming.
That's not surprising to me.
Really? Yeah. I mean, because there's really not much of a plot or a story in the game.
No, but it's just Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
So you just do that.
I'm just...
And, there hasn't been anything like that in theaters for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I just felt like, well, if there was a market for that, wouldn't they have made a new Starship Troopers movie?
No, because Starship Troopers is basically poisoned by terrible direct-to-video sequels. But there have been 4 more of those movies.
I know, and they were all like direct to DVD. Yeah.
Although the CG animated series in the late Roughnecks, that was pretty good.
I never saw that.
It's all right.
Yeah,
it's on DVD. I don't remember.
But you're right. The Helldivers 2 is just going to be another big budget.
Yeah. Also remember that Helldivers can be even more upfront about the parody. You know, the Starship Troopers sequels lost the propaganda film.
Oh, it did.
Like they were not. They had them, but they didn't seem. You know, Verhoeven was saying something with that first one.
Yeah.
The opposite of the book, really.
Yeah.
And the others were just sort of like, oh, it's funny because it's like weird and over the top and violent when like these propaganda things run. But like I would imagine with Helldivers 2, you can really push it.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Dial it in.
And it might be kind of relevant by the time that comes out. I don't know.
We'll see.
I'm saying. But it's also a pretty straightforward adaptation to a movie. You know, Aliens is a classic film. That's where all that comes from, and they might be kind of leaning into the idea that by the time they get that done, that'll also be about the time Henry Cavill's Warhammer thing comes out. And Warhammer going critical mass the way Fallout did might be a thing.
Yeah,
so you never know.
It could be. Yep. So anyway,
I see where their synergy is attempting to come. Right?
Yeah.
I understand between
what they're trying to do.
Between Helldivers 2 being a breakout hit and sort of where some of these other projects might be going, I kind of understand why that would be one of the ones they'd greenlight.
Okay. So anyway, Helldivers 2 film, and then a Ghost of Tsushima anime series that will air exclusively on Crunchyroll. It's crazy to me how huge Crunchyroll has been.
Yeah, they've really built up.
That's also the goofiest name ever for like a streaming service.
Yeah, sushi reference.
It is, but what does that have to do with streaming video?
Well,
they're anime. I guess Japan.
It's
Yeah,
just a Japan reference.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, it's exclusively on Crunchyroll, so that's a big deal for Crunchyroll to sign there. And then the final announcement they made is that the Until Dawn film is going to be in theaters in April. The very first any sort of anything for that was released today, and there is a clip on SIFTD right now. We curated it. There's interviews with the directors and some of the actors, and they explain how they're going to handle the branching storylines with the film and stuff like that. So check that out if you're really interested in it.
Former X-Play writer on the screenplay.
Yeah, Blair, right?
Yeah, Blair.
Yeah.
She tell me way back when they announced it that there was basically like the way they figured out how to handle the branching element was really clever.
Yeah.
I don't think she meant that like she came up with
right,
it.
Right.
She's like, I was brilliant. No, that's not who,
that's not Blair at all. She's like the most self-deprecating person I've ever worked around.
But she was like, I think you'll think it's really neat the way they've decided to handle that. So,
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
So anyway, that comes out in
that part.
Yeah, that comes out in April. And
I also saw that the director of The Flash is writing and has been writing the script for the Shadow of the Colossus movie.
Yeah, I saw that, which has been in development for like
10 years.
10
yeah,
years.
I mean, everything with that Team Eco thing takes a while.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was dead.
I mean, if that guy's doing it, it might
be dead.
Stay dead. Did not like the Flash very much, and now he's saying that the Flash movie bombed because no one cares about that character, and I'm like. You do know that the CW had a Flash show that lasted 9 years, right? At some point, you just have to admit the movie was bad and no one wanted to see it.
Oh, Eve Demon reminds us that Sony actually owns Crunchyroll. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Which I had actually forgotten about. Thank you for bringing that up. And there you go. There's the synergy for you. That's all that really matters right there. Congram1 says, I'm on the opposite spectrum where I find Aloy bland and a bit annoying with the quips every 30 seconds. Love the gameplay and enemies. So, I mean, I am really surprised that Aloy has become... I like Aloy.
I like her.
And I love their games, but she is a little wooden. Like,
she's lived in a fucking woods with one dude for the whole life. Yeah, she's going to be a little socially awkward.
Yeah, she's not exactly charismatic.
There's a reason you cast Ashley Birch for that. She is socially awkward very well. I mean, my only annoyance with Aloy, I think, is in Forbidden West. I think she blurts out the solution to the puzzles a little too soon.
Yeah.
As soon as you show up, it's like, I should put that over. I'm like, yeah, you should, but you can keep it to yourself until I do it, can't you?
Swan Senpai asked, was there a Helldivers 1? I've never seen that ever mentioned. There was. Oh, yeah. It's old, but and it's different.
It's like 8 years ago, I think. Yeah. But it was a Diablo perspective.
Like isometric.
Isometric twin stick shooter.
Yeah,
It was
so
very
way
different.
different from what we got ultimately with
So
Helldivers 2.
otherwise very similar. I mean,
The aesthetics,
multiplayer. Everybody's working toward everything you do gets contributes
global
to the galaxy.
battle, yeah.
The same three enemies, including the aliens that just showed up for the year anniversary. Basically.
That are basically zombies.
Yeah. They got everything.
They do.
Whatever you want. You want to kill bugs, you want to kill zombies, you want to kill aliens, you want to kill Terminators. Like, we got everything. Like,
Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's pretty much the roundup from CES. And I will admit, we talked about CES this year longer than we may have ever talked about CES on GameFace. Ever. And mostly because of Switch 2. Because there's just usually not big console news or video game news at CES, period. It was a little bit different this year, but most of that is attributed to Genki bringing a Switch 2 mock-up. I still can't believe it did that.
Yeah, Genki... Of all the names, I didn't expect to pop up there.
I mean, it may have just completely ruined its relationship with Nintendo. I mean, was it worth it?
I don't know.
It's weird. So anyway, there you go. That's CES 2025. Next up, more rumors flowing around. One thing I was talking to my wife at dinner last night, and she was just like, "Oh, it's 2025. What's the new year bringing for games?" Every once in a while, she just wants me to kind of fill her in on what's happening in games. And the one thing that I mentioned to her is that, like, there's no surprises anymore. That everything is ruined now. And that is true, Matt.
Yeah.
Every console, every game, everything is leaked out before it's officially announced now.
Right, but that's only for us. Like, you understand that, like, normal people don't know these things until
they don't watch
happen.
GameFace. They don't know about the stuff that we talk about on the show every week. I get that. But still, if you want to find out the information, it's there. And the crazy part is, it's always accurate. I can't remember the last leak or rumor that was untrue.
I mean, there was some Switch stuff that was fake.
Some Switch 2 stuff?
Yeah, that 3D printed mock-up with the horrible blurry pictures and things like that.
Yeah. But for the most part, like, stuff about games, almost always accurate. And the rumor coming down the pike this week is that there is a rework. I don't know if it's a remaster or a remake yet of Oblivion on the way. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
It would have to be a remake. Because it's too clunky to just remaster this.
So, some details have leaked out here over
By the way,
last day or so.
if this is real, that should give you an idea of how far away Elder Scrolls 6 is.
I know.
Years and years.
Yep.
Years.
And they're saying that this will be announced. There is a big Xbox developer direct coming
By
up.
the way, over the break, while we were gone, the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement is now older than Skyrim was when they announced Elder Scrolls 6.
I know, man.
Okay? 7 years.
It's so bad. It's so bad. So here's and yesterday, there was a bunch of details leaked out again about the Oblivion. It does seem like it's gonna be a remake because they're making some pretty significant changes. Also, I should attribute this information to MP First, another prolific leaker who is pretty much always right. And the information that he shared yesterday is that it's being built in Unreal Engine 5. There's also significant gameplay changes coming that,
I hope so.
that affect stamina, sneaking, blocking, archery, hit detection, and the HUD. They said the blocking, or he said...
How about magic, too? Because magic was unusable in this
It kind of was.
The Skyrim with the replenishing mana bar finally made magic useful.
It did.
In Elder Scrolls. Like,
Yep.
You could finally you could play a magic character and just not, as opposed to just before that. Especially in Oblivion, it was just okay. You can use magic sometimes to like enhance shit, but it's not gonna regenerate, so you're basically screwed. Like you can't rely on that entirely. I really struggled to finish Oblivion. I have to admit, like
It was hard.
Morrowind burned right through. Played it again a few years later. Skyrim I played to the 100% completion I think 4 times.
Yeah, he still played every once in a while.
Oblivion I barely made it through.
It was
game.
It was clunky.
Yeah,
Like, it was awkward to
I
play.
enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was bad.
Yeah.
But 30 hours in, I kind of felt like I'd seen everything there was to see, and I was just going through the motions to see the credits.
Well, you can complete this game pretty quickly. Like you can complete it in less than 10
but
hours.
I was trying to do like
I know how you
the
play.
Sheogorath, and I was trying to do the DLC and the Sheogorath stuff and all the Isle of Madness stuff, and like it was just a slog.
Yeah.
There's Oblivion gates everywhere. It was just
Yeah. Well, they're saying the blocking is now like Dark Souls, because the blocking in this is so abysmal. Like it definitely needed reworked. Now sneak icons are highlighted, and damage calculation has been revamped. The knockdown that comes from stamina being depleted is now harder to trigger, which is nice because that happened all the freaking time. The HUD was redesigned to make it easier to understand. Hit reactions were added to make response clear, because that's the other thing. Like, it's hard to tell if you're actually hitting enemies or not a lot of times.
It was the feedback on this game is terrible.
It really
in a lot of ways.
It really
like
is.
that is terrible. The fucking convincing system is terrible.
Yeah.
Like it's all kind of. It all feels like it's made out of tissue paper at a certain point.
And then they completely revamped archery so that you can use it from both.
Just make it like Skyrim. Just
pretty much. That's all you got to do.
Just make it like Skyrim with a bunch of mods.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
And I know they're aware of that because, like I said, that one time I told Todd once that when he came in for an award, I think when they won the Game of the Year award for Skyrim, and I said that one of my friends who used to be at UB was trying to work on a mod for Skyrim to make the combat into more like Dark Souls. And he was just like, "Does he want a job?" Like
that's what we're trying to do.
Like they knew that's what they were trying to get. They're trying to get that to be something. And look, they have made progress. Fallout 4 is a clear improvement over Fallout 3, and Starfield's gunplay is a clear improvement over Fallout 4. It's like they're not sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I totally believe that they want this to be something that feels modern and feels,
like it was made in the last 2 decades.
Yeah. Because this game's old.
It is old. Yeah, it really is.
This game, what was this, 2008?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You remember when it only took 3 years between Elder Scrolls games?
I don't. It's been so long, I don't remember it, actually.
No, Sam, I don't recall the taste of strawberries or the smell of grass.
Yep. So anyway, again, that they're saying that this is going to be announced on January 23rd, which is when they're having a big Xbox developer direct. They're also going to show off
this and Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 in the same year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of open world RPG in.
Yeah.
Although they're all very different.
Yeah, they are. And they're going to show South of Midnight in that thing, and then
that game looks really good.
Then it does, and then 2 other games. One is a complete secret that they're saying is like the revival of a big IP. Yeah, well,
what's left? Black and White.
I think they said it was maybe a Japanese IP.
Oh,
yeah.
Otogi 3, finally.
That would be quite the eye-opener. So anyway, that's the latest on Oblivion. We're going to get to play a rework of Oblivion before we get to play the Elder Scrolls 6. You guys have a couple comments here about this. Vincent says, fans are already doing that, though. The fan remake of Oblivion and the Skyrim engine is almost done. You're right.
Yes, Oblivion's been in the works for a long time.
It has been.
It'd be very funny if it came out right as...
It really would be. Squishy Muffin says they're not re-recording dialogue from the grand total of 4 different voice actors.
Yeah, it's people forget how shoestring some of that. Like the same, every race of character, all the wood elves are the same 2 people, one guy and a girl, and they're all the same voice, and like it's. People forget how much of a jump Skyrim was. Skyrim was such a huge.
It really was a leap, yeah. And then Vincent reminds us, I should have said this, that Virtuos is actually doing the development on this game. It's not Bethesda, because Bethesda can't finish the Elder Scrolls 6.
No, I mean I'm sure Bethesda's keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, yep. JM Rain, when will the Borderlands 4 announcement happen?
They already do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think he's cracking a joke. Eth Demon, Big Japan, not a revival, just decades of legacy. Most predictions seem to be Persona 6. That would be interesting for them to debut that on an Xbox
on an
stream.
Xbox, yeah.
But it's possible.
If their hat is made of money, anything's possible.
I mean, they did have that big deal on Game Pass with Persona, so maybe that greased the wheels a little bit.
Yeah, Dustin Horman they did Sega registered Echo
the Dolphin, the last franchise people want to see revived, basically.
What was the last game for that game?
There was a PlayStation 2 game, I think.
Yeah, but that was a Dreamcast game port. So it must have been 24 years ago. I think 24 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's because nobody wants it. I mean,
I'd play it.
I mean,
I don't know if it'd be any good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll play it.
I liked all the Echoes. The first Echo of the Dolphin's a horror game.
It really is.
Nobody knows that, but it's a cosmic horror game.
It really is. Yep. That game frustrated the crap out of me.
Oh, very frustrating.
I never really enjoyed it. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on Oblivion not being made.
Echo is an excellent example of my constant thing about how just because something is unique does not mean it's good.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing else like Echo.
But
and there's a reason there was nothing else like
everybody
Echo.
wanted it.
Like there weren't a lot of Echo clones.
Yeah.
Despite how everybody knew what Echo was, and there was a whole thing. It was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I remember when the Dreamcast game came out, I was living down here the first time, and I was playing it, and my roommates were like, "Oh my god, what is that?" Like,
Yeah.
and they played it for like 1 minute. Like, that's cool.
Oh, okay.
I'm good. Yeah. I'm all right.
Where's the beer?
Which was kind of, I guess, Dreamcast in a nutshell.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Something,
where's the beer?
Yeah. The game that held their attention the most was Seaman.
Really?
They loved Seaman.
Because it's so bizarre.
Because it was so weird,
Yeah.
and they could talk to it when they were drunk and stoned.
Yeah.
And like that was the thing where he.
That's what it was.
One of my roommates, he just sat there and kept talking to the baby Seaman. He wouldn't. He's like, speak English. Why can't you speak it? And finally, the baby Seaman turns to the camera and goes, "Why do Americans always think everyone has to speak English?"
Yeah.
And never said it again.
Yeah.
Never. And he spent the whole next day trying to get it to do it again. I'm like, I think it only does that once. Like that's the. I think that's the point.
Yeah.
And like, no, it was just.
That's funny.
Oh.
Yep. All the Dreamcast days.
But the rest of the time I lived there, every once in a while, someone just come out in the living room and do the Leonard Nimoy voice. "Your Seaman is cold."
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot he voiced that whole thing.
Did.
Yep.
He
So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on Oblivion.
and
Next
Civilization.
up. What did you say?
He did Civilization, one of the
Oh, he did.
civilizations.
Yeah.
So
That's Civ 4?
I think it was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
4, I think. I saw a thing yesterday of somebody going over all the different voices for the various civilizations, and it's like, we got Game of Thrones Sean Bean, and now, or Lord of the Rings Sean Bean, and now we got Game of Thrones Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, isn't it also just Game of Thrones Sean Bean?
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was in all these other things, but
Yeah.
like, if she's Game of Thrones, he can be Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So.
So anyway, I finally
God,
got a
that's
chance. I
coming
don't
up
know if you
fast,
did,
isn't it?
Matt, but I finally got a chance to watch Secret Level. Did you get to watch any of the episodes?
Yeah. I saw it.
So I downloaded them all to my phone, flew, and I'm like, oh, this will be enough to like fly to Pennsylvania and then fly back to LA. Oh no.
No, it's like an hour and a half.
Literally, there's like 20 episodes and it lasts like a total of like an hour.
It's a short collection.
Yeah, but like, I've been trained by the anthology stuff on Netflix, where each one's like 30 to like 45 minutes long.
No, not this is the Love, Death, and Robots,
It is.
and they're like 5 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean the Mega Man was literally 4
The
minutes.
Mega Man one is. I mean, the Mega Man one, I would watch a whole series.
Oh,
of
yeah.
that. But like, yeah, it's barely a cold open.
It's
like,
insane how short it is.
ridiculous.
But it's so awesome. I'm like, oh my god, like you need to make a whole show or a film like this. Like, it was honestly maybe my favorite of all of them.
If it was longer, that would have been my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it's only like 2 minutes long, it can kind of go fuck itself. I think the best one was the Warhammer one.
Really?
I really like the Warhammer one. I really like the Pac-Man one.
I like the Sifu one.
The what?
The Sifu one.
The Sifu one was good. I mean, most of them were good. The only ones I didn't like the Arnold Schwarzenegger one.
Unreal Tournament I thought was horrible.
With a robot?
It's just the robot fight. It's just fight choreography for
it was
20
it was
minutes
fine.
or whatever.
No, that was like 7 minutes.
It seemed like it dragged that long.
Because it's such a rote story. It's
Yeah.
just like you've seen it before. The Arnold Schwarzenegger one, which I give him credit. There were 2 things in there. I mean, I guess I had heard of the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, which was the Amazon MMO, the
New World.
New World. That's right. Well, it was just kind of dumb.
Yeah.
It wore out its gimmick. And then the other, I had never heard of I guess it was like a Korean, no, I'd heard of Crossfire. That was actually pretty good, the Crossfire one.
Yeah, I was kind of pleasantly surprised by that one, actually, because the game itself blows so bad.
Right.
First of all, I can't believe that they made anything based on Crossfire.
Well,
I know it's big in Korea or whatever,
Because
but
it's so popular, yeah.
but here, no one cares.
No, well, I mean, it still makes more sense than the Concorde one.
Yeah,
But, like,
well, the Concorde one was kind of clever in that it, like, brought you to the beginning of what the debut trailer of
well, because it
Concorde.
was supposed to launch the next season.
Right.
Those were all the new characters they were going to add. For the new, but the other, what was the other one that was like? It was like a mobile For Honor or not For Honor, but you know what I'm talking about? It was like a fantasy. I think it was like a fantasy mobile Clash of Clans kind of game, but the short wasn't really like it was.
I don't remember
it was
that
it was the guy playing the game against the old man in the meta world.
Was it the Sifu
in the
one?
in the moving city?
I don't remember that.
It's like the 8th or 9th one.
Huh.
It's like they're in the city and the city moves and transforms all of it, and he goes to the cathedral thing and says he wants to challenge the master and they play Go against each other.
Oh, maybe I didn't watch that one.
And like
there's a couple I couldn't even bring myself to watch.
It turns out to be like a whole time loop or something.
Yeah.
But it's based on like a mobile game that I'd never heard of.
Yeah, I don't know what that one was. The ones that I wrote down: Sifu, Unreal Tournament, Warhammer,
Honor of Kings. That's what it was.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one at all because I was like, "What the hell is that?"
That was all right. I mean, I thought most of them were fine.
Yeah,
were pretty good to find. The Unreal Tournament one was kind of boring. I didn't really care about the Concord one very much.
Well, notice
there is something about the Concord stuff that just
grinds your
repulses
gears.
me. I don't know, but I do think the world is interesting. I mean, I would play a single player shooter or adventure game or something in the
that
Concord
world. Yeah.
But like they just went the wrong direction with it, I think.
Well, how about like we saw the trailer for Shadow Labyrinth at the Game Awards, the weird Pac-Man thing?
Yeah,
and we were like, what in the hell is this? Well, then I watch and you see that there's been synergy between Secret Level and this game.
Yeah, I knew that. I said that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they put a trailer out for that Pac-Man short before the Game Awards came.
I did not know that at all.
And when they showed up, I'm like, oh, it's that fucking weird short.
Yeah, I couldn't believe. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. And I thought that was pretty good. The Pac-Man one. Yeah. I never would have guessed they could do that with Pac-Man. And now I understand what this game's about as well, having watched that short.
It turns out that Pac-Man is the one imprisoned in the maze.
Right.
And he's the one you don't want to get out.
Right, yeah. And I thought that one was a good one. Armored Core was okay.
I liked Armored Core.
I thought the Outer Worlds was one of the best ones.
Outer Worlds.
It was basically just like the humor from the Outer Worlds, and it's just like a sci-fi short.
Right, where the guy becomes a test subject to see the girl he likes.
Yeah, it ends up becoming like a complete cyborg. Mm. I thought that one was really good.
That is, I gotta give them credit, Outer Worlds and Obsidian credit. Like very few things in the game medium right now are nailing the anti-capitalist, anti-corporate thing with quite that same balance of humor and knowing sort of winks and also just vicious criticism. Like it's a really nice three-way balance of how to approach that subject. And that short really nailed it.
It really did. It was great. And there's Armored Core you're seeing right now. I thought that was okay. Spelunky I thought was lame AF. It was
that was a little weird.
Breaking the fourth wall. Like, why are we doing the same thing over and over again? Like, just basically it's just like a parody of roguelike.
But also, I mean, I think it's also just like a reference to just life in general.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're
you
marking
get up,
off,
you do the same thing.
You're marking off the deaths, but like, there's an element of there's no proof that when you go to sleep, the connection and continuity of consciousness sort of ends, and the thing that wakes up the next morning may be a new entity that is rebooted with your software.
Interesting.
So your self may only live a day at a time. There's no way to know for sure.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of a roguelike in a way.
Yeah, it is a little bit. And then there was the Playtime episode, which was basically like a mashup of a bunch of video game properties.
That was all Sony.
Mostly PlayStation. Was it all PlayStation?
It's 100%.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's called Playtime.
Gotcha.
Because it's all Sony.
Okay.
PlayStation. That was fine. That was cool.
That was just like...
it's just like a nice.
There wasn't much value to it, but I like to see the PlayStation characters in CG.
Yeah, it was about the same level of like when they all show up in Astrobot.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh cool, it's a Shadow of the Colossus guy, and I don't really think that's what you should use that character for, but sort of like using the Iron Giant in Ready Player One. The whole point is that he's not a gun, and then you just use him as a gun.
Yeah.
But like, it was fine.
I was pleasantly surprised by Secret Level because I read a bunch of reviews that we curated on SIFTD and people just ragged on it. Like they were like, it's just basically an advertisement for these games. I felt a few of them were that way.
Some of it is. I think it's part of it's because they're comparing it to the other the Love, Death, and Robots or whatever. That other those are generally better quality in terms of like concept.
Black Mirror
and writing.
Yeah.
I'm comparing it to this stuff that the same people have done.
Yeah.
And this is Blur, so they all look really good.
Yeah.
A lot of it was Blur. Anyway, a lot of it was different studios.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, look, the advantage of them is that if you don't like them, they're only like 7 minutes long at max. So
by the time you get pissed off, they're over.
You're not going to have to live through it very long. I like it fine. I'd like to see another round of it.
Me too. I want to see another season for sure.
I'd like to see the Mega Man thing expanded into something. Like, that was really good. I thought that was a really cool take on him. there have been a lot of different adaptations of Mega Man over the years, and I don't think any of them really nailed it. And I thought that one was pretty good.
I really
pretty
liked
close
it.
to it.
Yeah.
Like, I would watch a whole series of that.
Yeah. So look, if you're like me and you're kind of turned off to Secret Level because the reviews, a lot of them were like horrible. They're like, oh, this is just trash. Like, it's definitely not trash. Like, I enjoyed it. Like,
yeah, I mean, it probably helps if you know what most of the things are, but I didn't think it was terrible.
I think next time they should have somebody like us working with them, consulting and telling them which properties to work with.
I think it was more
Some
like
of
who
them
was, willing to offer the money and the license.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you think that the game publishers paid to have these made?
I don't see a way half of those got made otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't see a way other than the Honor of how does Honor of Kings or the New World or Concord or how did these things nobody fucking heard of or Crossfire, like I'm sure those were paid for.
Yeah.
Those are product placement.
Probably the better ones were the ones that weren't paid.
Some of them. I mean, I thought. I mean, I don't give a shit about Crossfire at all.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a very unique setting or unique story. But I thought it was well executed. I thought that little heist thing they did with that was pretty cool. And they did a lot of like character building with showing instead of telling. I always appreciate that. Like you got the fact that that guy, the one guy who survived and was almost going to go on like kind of the rampage of revenge, like. That was his boyfriend. Yeah. That got killed. And you never said it. They never were explicit about it. But you saw what he did and why he did it, and like you understood what he was doing and how he had to pull himself back. I thought that was a very effective emotional moment for something that only had like 6 minutes to make its case.
Yeah, I mean,
involving a game that I do not give a shit about.
Yeah. Some of the best ones were ones that I wasn't even gonna watch. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, you know what? I have a 5-hour flight. I might as well just download them all. And so I ended up watching them all, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Except Honor of Kings.
Right, that one to me, I was like, is that even based on games?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, I mean, I
had never heard of it.
Neither have I. That's the one game in the whole lineup I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
But it was a fine short.
I'll have to go watch it now. Yeah. But
nice visuals.
Otherwise, I thought Secret Level was pretty great. If you like games, like it's a fun hour that you spend just going through some of your favorite and not so favorite franchises.
Yeah, I didn't love all of it, but it's I'd say more positive than negative.
Yeah, it was worth my time. I didn't feel like
the Warhammer thing was a pretty good example. I mean, you could do a whole series of that.
Yeah,
not even live action Henry Cavill. You could just do a CG Warhammer series because that was also the same guy from Space Marine 2. I mean, that's Titus in there. Yeah, and I thought it was pretty cool.
I think I liked it at least as much as I liked Squid Game 2, season 2 of Squid Game.
I didn't watch that.
So I paid for a month of Netflix. So I
season 3 coming now
for Squid Game.
Games. Yeah, they didn't
next year.
That?
Yeah. I think it's already done, and they're just splitting it up.
I feel like
it was a horrible cliffhanger.
I feel like a lot of people missed the point of that shit show.
Yeah, I think they did.
But you can buy Squid Game like sweatsuits now, and I'm just like,
no,
like what? Why? What are you doing?
I had to pay for Netflix for a month to watch the Steelers play on Christmas Day. And so
I saw. Yeah.
So I have Netflix for a month. So I just was like, what have I missed? I have missed nothing.
You've missed so many seasons of the Great British Baking Show.
I have missed nothing.
You've missed so many seasons of the Great British Baking Show.
I was like, wow. I haven't paid for Netflix in like a year and a half. I missed nothing. Like, it took me like 2 days.
You watched TJ's movie.
What'd you say?
You watched TJ's movie.
TJ's movie?
TJ Fixman. You remember him?
No, I don't.
The guy who wrote all the Ratchet and Clank games?
No, I don't remember
You know
No,
He's good friends with Blair Herter and all those.
No,
I know
met
TJ
him.
pretty well. He wrote Carry On.
Oh, okay.
The big, the Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I saw it there, yeah.
It's like the 5th biggest Netflix movie
it's in
of all
the
time.
top, like, 10 there all the time, yeah.
It's the most watched Netflix original movie of the year.
Wow.
It's like the number 5 most watched of all time.
Wow.
He wrote the guy who wrote Ratchet and Clank wrote that. I mean, he's
that's great.
And I remember him being like, I got this TSA movie picked up, and so all of a sudden he's like, holy shit. So yeah.
AJ says, sorry about your Steelers. Oh my God, man. The Steelers playoff game this weekend was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever suffered through. It was just a disaster.
Bake Off. It's called the Great British Baking Show here because Bake Off in America is trademarked by Pillsbury.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can't call it that here.
Barry says, I use my sister's Netflix. I thought you couldn't do that anymore. Share passwords.
Well, now they know. They see you.
You're screwed now, buddy. But, man, Netflix, I didn't have Netflix for 18 months. I felt like I missed literally, like, nothing. I was like, what have people been subscribing to watch on this thing? Like,
I don't know.
And then Squid
stuff?
Game Season 2 was like, maybe I forgot how campy and cheesy the first season of Squid Game was. Like, but Season 2, it was just, I didn't think it was even really good. Like, I was like, is the first season this bad? I don't know, but I'm not going to go watch it again. So it's just like, I definitely enjoyed season 1 way more than season 2. And then they end it on this ridiculous like cliffhanger. Like they don't finish the season. They split up season 2 into 2 parts, and now we have to wait a year to watch the rest of the episodes.
I don't need to ever watch Squid Game season 2.
You watched season 1 though?
Yeah, and that was fine. It's enough.
Well, it's the same damn thing. The guy who wins goes back
to
try to end the game. The whole thing's absurd.
He's like, I was on a Star Wars show and it didn't work out, so here I am.
Anyway.
Inexplicably, I look 15 years older than the last time. I don't know what happened there.
Well, the good news is that most of you guys have Amazon Prime because you're Amazon Prime subscribers and you subscribe to our channel here on Twitch, which is awesome.
Yeah, which means you can go watch Pop Culture Jeopardy.
Well, you can go watch Secret Level, is what I was getting at.
Right, but you can also watch Pop Culture Jeopardy.
You can, yeah. That's true.
There's some actual video game questions in there.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's Secret Level. That's 2 thumbs up from both Matt and I was pleasantly surprised by it. Way better than I thought based upon all the people who reviewed it in the games industry, who maybe necessarily aren't the right people to be reviewing TV shows and film.
Yeah, I don't think I really care what anyone in the game industry has to say about that kind of stuff.
I think I learned that lesson through Secret Level for sure. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to listen to you again. Next up. It's interesting, Matt. A lot of our heroes in the game development industry are starting to become very old. Like they're in their 60s and their 70s. Miyamoto, I see him now. It terrifies me how old he is. Kojima also is up there. He is now 61 years old, but he's still operating. Like, whereas Miyamoto in his older age has like moved on and he's not like elbows deep in game development. He just walks around and sprinkles his...
Right, but Miyamoto accomplished all the things he ever wanted to do.
Yeah, well, Kojima
has not.
You may be right.
Kojima wants to make movies.
He is still all up in it on development of Death Stranding 2.
One of my time travel goals would be to go back in time and finagle some way to get Kojima into film school as a young man, so he wouldn't have to deal with all this.
Well, he is still like elbows deep in game development because he started his own studio and he can't just be a figurehead anymore. He has to actually work.
I mean, he could, but that's not in his nature.
Also, the games would be even worse than they are. And
he's too much of a control freak to
He'll never let that happen.
No.
And so they have just entered crunch on Death Stranding 2, and Kojima is sending out SOS messages on social media, like basically saying, I can't do this anymore. He's like, I'm so tired. Like, there's no end in sight. Like, it's...
I want to go home.
Pretty much is what he's saying, man.
I don't blame him.
I can't do this anymore, but he has to do it. Because it's him. These games are him.
Right, but it's also like, what a discouraging thing to see if you're in kind of the world, or if you're even like a younger person. Like, it never gets any better.
No.
Like, it really... Like, you can be one of the most successful developers in the world, and it still sucks.
Yeah, it's still a crappy job. It really is. It's been eye-opening watching him kind of melt down a little bit on social media and be like, man, like, when I was in my 20s, like, I wanted to do this, and now I just can't. Even though I kind of want to still do it, like, my body and my energy, I just can't do it anymore. And he has so many projects in the cooker right now. I mean, he has 4 games that he's working on right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has OD Fizzant, Death Stranding 2, and there's one other one. I can't remember what it is. But he's trying to make 4 games at a time at 61 years old. Like, what do you think's going to happen?
I don't know.
Because it doesn't feel like his understudies have... Like, they talk all the time in the NFL when they look at coaches. They're like, what's their coaching tree like? Like, Mike Tomlin of the Steelers. He doesn't have a coaching tree, which means that, like, none of the people that have worked under him have gone on to become head coaches at other NFL teams or even have really great careers outside of what they did when they worked with Mike Tomlin. So they say that he has no coaching tree. It feels like Kojima doesn't have, like, a coaching tree. Like, it doesn't feel like his understudies picked up what he was putting down and are able to do it on their own. Look at Metal Gear, what was it? Rising Revenge, not Revengeance. That multiplayer cooperative Metal Gear game that came out. Like, those were his understudies.
Right, but I mean, it's because no one can quite replicate the dumb bullshit he does.
I mean, you're right.
You know, it's like,
but that's also why a lot of people love his game.
Right, but it's also why they're not more successful.
You're right. They're successful enough.
Like, there's no reason to spend half a decade making this crap.
Yeah. I mean, look at this clip.
This is not going to do any better than what the last UPS simulator Stranding did. Like, it's... there's a limited audience for this, and it's just not going. Like, don't kill yourself for this stuff.
I think the other thing too,
make smaller games if you want to make such weird shit.
I think that's the key. I think what Kojima is realizing is that to continue making the type of games that he's made all along, that's what it is.
Right.
It's a grind.
But he can't accept that because he wants to make movies.
Right.
And they have to look like movies.
Yep. He has to be able to tell a cinematic tale in his games. Yeah. And that's what he enjoys doing. And unfortunately, those are the type of games that are going to make you crunch for like 18 months to 2 years to get the games done. He's also very obsessive with polish, which is one thing I do respect about his games. They are generally, whether you like them or not, they are generally very freaking polished.
Yeah, Death Stranding was very polished.
I mean, most of his games are. And I think his obsession with that is going to spell his doom as well. Like, I feel like this may be one of the last, or maybe the last, sort of big budget style game that he does.
Well, I think the other 2 games he's working on are going to be that too.
You think they are? They almost feel like smaller, like concepts than.
Oh, just because he hasn't said anything about it.
Maybe.
They're all. OD is going to be the same kind of thing as this, production-wise. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know about Physent or whatever that is.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. I would be surprised if OD is not, because you don't involve celebrities in the level of what he's got for OD unless you're doing this.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that's a pretty good sign. AJ asks, like, who in the video game industry has an amazing coaching tree? Well, that's the thing, is that, like, you don't know.
Yeah, you don't really talk. They don't want to talk about it
because developers aren't celebrities, so to speak. But most of them do. Like if you look at like the Gears of War team back from the first 2 or 3 Gears of Wars, a lot of the guys who worked on that are now working at other studios on big projects. Like,
or even like, and you never know when like the head coach is going to lose his edge.
Right.
You know, like it's kind of what happened at CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the same director and people behind Witcher 3 did Cyberpunk.
Right.
But then that didn't really work out, and then they left and formed the new studio. And the people who were left, the people who remained, did Phantom Liberty, and Phantom Liberty was better than the main game.
It was,
like so you never know. Sometimes that coaching staff surpasses.
You can get set in your ways, and
you know who really
become unwilling.
You know who really seems to have a deep bench in that regard is Capcom.
Yeah.
Like clearly those head people can't do all that shit, but they are knocking every single one of their things out of the park.
Well, look at all the smaller imprints that have spun out of Capcom across the years. You got Clover Studio, you have Suda51, what was this? Grasshopper manufacturer. Like, there's been tons of people that have spilled out of Capcom.
And then they all come back.
Yeah. Yeah, now they are coming back and slightly changing the name of their studio. So anyway, if you're a fan of Kojima, you might want to really relish some of these last couple games that he's working on, because it does feel like he's putting messages out there like, I'm not long for this. So, one, you should cross your fingers that these next couple games he's working on are really good, and 2, you should try to enjoy them as much as you can.
Well, at a certain point, you just got if he doesn't like doing it anymore, he's probably got enough money to retire. So just enjoy your life.
Father Time is undefeated. It doesn't matter what you like to do; it will come and get you. And it is crazy to me, Matt, to think about what age I'm at now. And I feel great, you know, other than my back going out for the last week. But generally, I feel great. I don't feel old or even middle-aged or anything like that. And then I look at, like, my mom, who's, like, 20-some years older than me, and I'm like, really? Are the next 20 years going to turn me into that? That's hard for me to believe. I'm like, really? Like, my skin's going to look like that? I'm going to walk like that? My hands are going to look in just 20 years?
Oh, yeah.
Like, towards the end of your life, like, that stuff comes fast.
Yeah, well, I think about that every time I go to a doctor's appointment or anything like that. I'm like, one day I'm going to walk in here and whatever's wrong with me is never going to not be wrong again.
Right. It's going to be something I'm going to have to take medication for the rest of my life or whatever. Yeah.
One of these days I'm going to go in here and I'm never coming out again.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very disturbing.
It is disturbing, I know, but it's just the reality of life. And these developers are no different than the rest of us. They're human beings just like us. They age just like us. They get cancer just like us. They have the same physical issues that we have if they don't eat right, just like we do. It's easy to look at these people as like bulletproof because you just see them through the lens. You see them on the Xbox stream or on the PlayStation stream or on their little directs that they do. But when you meet them in person, you realize that they're just like us. And they do. Look at, we've seen some people die really young. Nintendo's had some people die really young that we didn't expect that to happen. So, I think there's this image that we have of these people that they're almost like superhumans, but they're not. They're just like us. And Kojima's no different as well. So if you love his games, you should probably try to cherish these next few releases because there's no guarantee that there's going to be any more. And who knows? We may not get OD or Physent for 8 years from now. Like, you just don't know. He could say these could be his last games. Because in 8 years, he's going to be almost 70. That blows my mind. Kojima at 70. It blows my mind. So anyway, if you're a fan, you might want to start keeping track of Death Stranding 2. Because it is coming up soon, and they're in crunch right now. So it's probably releasing in the next 18 months or 2 years, probably. We'll see. Next up, got some bad news over the last week that I was pretty disappointed in because there's some stuff going on behind the scenes with Ubisoft and I right now that I'm working on, and I did not see this coming, but Assassin's Creed Shadows has been delayed again. It was supposed to come out on, was it Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
It was supposed to come out on Valentine's Day. Now it's coming out on March 20th, which isn't much longer. I mean, it's 6 weeks from when it originally was? But they keep adding the 6 weeks.
They're not going to go past the end of Q1, I don't think. But this is probably so they can finalize a buyer.
Yeah, it feels that way. I feel like maybe they're negotiating with people, and they're like, look, don't put that game out because we want to put that game out. We want that to be on the ledger when we own you. And I do wonder, and look, it's not going to hurt the game. It just gives them more time to polish the game and make it better. But to your point, Matt, I do think that's what's happening here. I think they're trying to make themselves as ripe for purchase as possible. And what makes them more ripe than having an Assassin's Creed game that people like you and I have been begging for like 15 years coming out, like a month after you buy Ubisoft? I really think that's what's happening. I think this game is probably done. And they could release it now, but they're not gonna because they need to sell to someone. And it really is looking like Tencent is going to buy them. And then Tencent owns the whole damn games industry. It already kind of does.
Owns a lot of it.
Like, if you do not realize how many publishers and developers Tencent has at least a little bit of a stake in. It's really kind of scary, honestly, that it owns so much of the games industry, and now it's going to buy up Ubisoft. I don't know if that's bad, because I haven't seen, like, Tencent buy a publisher or a developer and, like, ruin it or screw things up. So maybe I'm being too alarmist, but I don't know. It just seems like always a bad idea to me for one company to own so much of any industry. It doesn't matter whether it's gaming or the oil industry or whatever. It's always bad for one company to have too much power. So we'll see, but that's kind of looking like what's happening. For me personally, I mean, I'm disappointed. I was hoping to play this game here in 4 weeks or whatever. I'm not going to be able to.
It's not like there isn't other stuff to play in February.
I mean, February's pretty much packed with good games.
Getting out of February is probably smart in and of itself.
Financially, it is. But March also has some bangers, too. So I don't know if it's escaping that, but I think really why this is happening, it's not to escape other games. It's not to polish up the game even more, even though it will. It is to make sure it is as viable for purchase as possible. And having this game coming out in the next couple months, like if it were already out, that would lessen the interest in buying Ubisoft. There's just no doubt about it. Because what's next? We got Star Wars Outlaws. Now we have Shadows. And what's next? The next Far Cry 7, which we got some rumors about that, where you have like a time limit to save your family or some crap. Remember that?
Yeah.
But there's really nothing immediately on the horizon coming from Ubi beyond Good and Evil 2, which has been in development forever. Like, it would be harder to be excited about buying Ubisoft after this game comes out. So I agree with you.
Especially if they're not sure what it's going to sell, because it is the target of a lot of hate campaigns.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so they're probably a little nervous about that. Like, they're like, let somebody else take that risk.
You see the Japanese Steam entry for this game changed the description of Yakuza.
No.
It no longer says he's a samurai. It says it calls him Iketosen, which, to be fair, means warrior that watches 1,000 warriors, which is like very high praise. Like, that's what they call Lubu. So it's not like they're denigrating him, but there's like a weird right-wing faction that has been screaming about him being called a samurai because they don't like a black guy being called a samurai. About that before. Which is like very funny because in Neo, like Yasuke's in Neo, by Team Ninja, a Japanese company, and they called him the Obsidian Samurai. The idea of him being a samurai has never been controversial before this.
Who changed that on Steam? Was it a fan?
It sounds like Ubi. No, Ubi.
Ubi did.
Yeah, it's the official description on the store page.
That really sucks. Bending the knee to the psychos. That
Ubi
sucks.
does that. Eve's kind of bent the knee a little bit to them for Outlaws too. After Outlaws came out,
yeah,
they're afraid.
Mitchell Ness asks,
they need every sale they can get.
Yeah, Will the U.S. government ban most gaming because Tencent owns so many companies? That TikTok ban kind of opens the door to that. It really doesn't.
Not really. The TikTok thing is because they want to control all the messaging on social media. They don't like TikTok because it's a social media platform that they don't control the lies on.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Which is why they're already floating the idea of Musk buying it.
Oh, yeah. So he can just turn it into another...
which Tencent has said is not a thing they have discussed at all. But they're putting that idea in the wind, which is what, they want to consolidate all of that. I mean, fucking... The Chinese social media app Redbook or whatever, which is literally named after Mao's Little Red Book, is risen on the Apple charts in America because people are fleeing to it, thinking that TikTok might get shut down. And it's like, okay, well, good job, dumbasses. Like,
I have never even installed TikTok.
I have, because people keep sending me stuff on it. I don't actually look at it unless someone sends me a link to it, and it gets real weird about trying to show you a TikTok link if you're not in the TikTok app. But otherwise, I don't really. I
had Vine or Vines. It's the same damn thing.
Yeah, it was just long form stuff. But like, it's. I mean, I've seen some very funny things on TikTok, but like, I will not really notice if it goes away.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not notice. I never use
But
that
way too many younger people get their news and opinions from it for the incoming administration and not want to control it. So that's what's going to happen there. Video games do not have the same cachet in terms of misinformation engines.
Yeah. Ashes in the Hourglass says Tencent and Ubi make a good match. Cookie cutter bland games are both of their forte. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's a funny comment. And Congram also says, yeah, he was in Neo too. Draylock says Red Note is what that's called.
That's it.
Yeah. As always, you guys setting us straight, and we appreciate it very much. But the bottom line is we're all going to have to wait about an extra 6 weeks now to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. And Matt, what happens if the deal doesn't go through? Do you think they'll delay it out of fiscal? Or
I don't think they can.
That's a step too far.
You cannot lose that revenue.
I think this is the last date.
Yeah.
The 20th.
Come
hell or high water, I think it's coming out March 20th.
Yeah, unless there's some horrible catastrophic thing that's happening in terms of the purchase, and they have to. I mean, I don't see a reason.
Or they find a
I don't see a
catastrophic
reason
bug.
to damage your fiscal numbers that bad out of the quarter.
It could get dicey. We'll see how it goes. But as of right now, Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming out on March 20th. Next up, Matt, you hinted at this. You did some great foreshadowing on our next topic. A brand new studio helmed by the director of The Witcher 3. What are they called? Red Wolves, I think is what it's called. The Red Wolves or something like that?
It's not red. It's something wolves.
Something wolves.
It's Reddy Wolves or something like that.
They announced a game just yesterday called The Blood of Dawnwalker, and it is basically Witcher.
They'd hinted at it in December.
Yeah.
They talked about it. They announced it in December, and they just showed it
yesterday. And it is basically The Witcher with vampires, which someone would argue The Witcher's already had vampires in it.
Oh, yeah. We wouldn't argue. There have
been.
It
have been, yeah.
And they look very similar.
They do, yes.
In fact, the king they kill in this looks a lot like Foltest.
Yeah.
From Witcher 2.
Yeah. This game looks freaking awesome, though. No? I mean, formulaic.
Looks, yes.
This might as well be a Witcher trailer.
But when I found out about what it really is, I'm not...
Oh, really?
Not that interested.
Well, what is it?
Well, it's an open world action RPG, but you're trying to the thrust of the story is you're trying to rescue your family from this vampire lord, and you have 30 in-game days to do it.
And
there's a time limit, and time limits can go fuck themselves.
Yeah,
I hate time limits in games. I always hate. So I will get this on PC and mod the time limit out, and then play it that way.
Interesting. It's weird to have an action RPG like that.
But that is supposedly what happens. Is you have an in-game month and time moves forward anytime you do any significant thing in the game. So you have a time limit on what you're doing, and I hate that.
I wonder what general players will think of that.
I don't know. Most people don't even finish these things, so they're probably never going to see the end of the time limit or the end of the game. But I don't like that. I don't like putting that on the game.
I didn't know that about it at all. I thought this was really just The Witcher, but by a new developer.
No, I'm sure it will have a lot of the stuff like that, but it's not an actual month of real time. It's a month of game time.
Right.
And so they can arbitrarily jump that forward however much they want.
Right. So they could still make the game be like 40 hours long.
Yeah, at some point you could do something and it's just like, oh, that took a week.
Right.
Now you only have 21 days.
Right.
It's just like, well, fuck you.
So they could find a way to still make it a pretty lengthy, epic game then. Because my fear is that it loses its epic nature because of this.
No, it's just going to feel like you're on a time limit, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I didn't like it. You've already lost my interest.
Nobody liked it in Pikmin. That's why they changed Pikmin.
I don't like it in Pikmin. I don't like it in Phantom Hourglass. I don't like it in Majora's Mask. I don't like it in
Outer Wilds.
I don't like being timed on exploration.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I'm right there with you. I agree with that 100%. But the production value, so this is all CG, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the characters, I mean, you can tell as people that worked on The Witcher.
Oh, yeah. At the end, they do show, like, 10 seconds of gameplay or whatever, and it looks pretty damn good. Like, they said they have 120 people working on this, so they have a pretty big team. They haven't set a release date yet. They did say PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. My guess is Switch 2, when it can finally say it, it'll probably be on there. At least, maybe not, actually.
I don't think this will run on that.
You may be right. You may be right. It may not be on there. But this really caught my eye. I was like, oh, okay, hot damn. Like, here's the coaching tree, right? Mm-hmm. Here's someone leaving a big studio, going and starting their own studio, and still at least producing a game or a game trailer that got me really excited for their video game. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know that about the game at all. It's almost like it's not a roguelike though. No. It's not like you're playing the same thing over again.
No, it's an open world. It's an open world action RPG, but you have a limited amount of time to do what you need to do.
Okay. I've also wondered why they put subtitles in this trailer. I'm not 100% sure why they did. But and here we'll get to see some gameplay or very briefly. Again, there's only about 10 seconds of it ultimately. But it looks pretty good what they do show. And it is kind of, I feel it's a little, this is the first end-to-end stuff right here. Yeah, so this is where it starts. I mean, look, you can slide down walls. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are a vampire. You disappear and reappear there, and then this enemy pops down.
He is a dawn walker, whatever that is.
It means he can walk during the day, I'm guessing.
Some kind of hybrid vampire-y thing. There's rumors that there's werewolves involved somewhere. We don't know.
Game looks pretty cool, I think.
I mean, it looks very nice. Yeah, it looks very nice. Visually impressive and attractive.
Yeah.
But that time limit is going to be a killer for me if it's a constrictive thing.
They should have just called it the Dawnwalker.
Blood of Dawnwalker is a weird title.
Yeah, it should just like The Witcher. It should have been called the Dawnwalker.
Or just Blood of the Dawnwalker.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why there's no definite article in there.
Yeah,
it's a weird...
strange. I think it's hard to remember the title of the game, but it's called The Blood of Dawnwalker. And again...
I mean, I think people are just going to end up calling it Dawnwalker anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Because, I don't know, if you're trying to follow the steps of The Witcher, I mean, The Witcher... He is also a Dawnwalker. The Dawnwalker would make perfect sense.
That's probably why they didn't call it.
Probably. They're like, oh, we don't want to skirt too close to what we were doing before. But anyway, I think the game looks awesome. Again, it's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. No release date announced at all yet. Next up, Atari just keeps hanging around somehow, some way. And this week, it announced a new handheld called the Atari Gamestation Go. It is a handheld that plays Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, arcade and M Network, and Atari Recharge Collection games. What's the M Network and Atari Recharge Collection? Do you know what that is?
I think the Atari Recharge Collection was the more recent collections of things. I don't know what the M Network was.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it sounds like it's Atari's like thing where you can just stream games or download games, I guess. I don't know. But it plays stuff from all those. The cool thing about this handheld, though, it has a trackball and a number pad. And, I mean, you kind of need it if you're going to be able to play all these old Atari games. And it has shoulder buttons as well. It has a 7-inch screen and HDMI out. You can pair 2 additional controllers with it. It also has a micro SD slot for quote-unquote firmware updates, but we know what that's really for. So you can basically just jailbreak it and use it for piracy. It also has some feature called a Smart Glow, where, and this is kind of cool actually, it lights up the buttons that you need to use for each game, which is kind of a cool feature. I'm surprised that Atari came up with ultimately. It's going to sell for $150, and it's coming in Q3. Matt, do you think there's any room in the market for something like this?
Nope.
I don't either.
These games largely are terrible.
Yeah.
They are of their time. If you have no pre-existing affection for them, they are not going to win you over.
Yeah.
I played a bunch of Atari stuff recently, just from like emulator stuff and those, the FPGA stuff and all that. And most of them are not good.
There's like 5 games that still hold up
Pretty
from
much.
the Atari 2600, and honestly, the 5200 and 7800. Like they weren't any better. Like those games are also pretty abysmal. But even Pitfall, I go back and play now, and I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, it was the best we had at the time.
I mean, it was the first platformer ever, pretty much. But yeah, like River Raid is still good.
River Raid's still good.
Barnstormer, I can still play.
I still like Cosmic Arc.
Yeah, I can still play, even though it's so simple.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's not a whole lot, man. Kaboom, I can still enjoy for a little bit.
I still like Warlords.
Yeah.
I still like, there was I think, what was the space game on the 5200? I can't remember what it was called, with Star Raiders or something like that.
5200, I had half interest in. 7800, didn't care at all.
Well, 7800 was basically going head to head with the NES, and there was no prayer.
No. Good luck.
I can't even name a 7800 game.
It's pretty crazy to have a number pad on a handheld.
Well, that was a 78. That was a 5200.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have it if you're going to play those games. Absolutely.
Because for some reason they felt the need to compete directly with the Intellivision or whatever that was, or whatever that was that had that.
Yeah, the Intellivision. It had the plastic sleeves that you'd slide over the number pad, and eventually you'd wear through it, and it would have holes in it.
Yep.
It's great. But anyway, again,
5200 was also one of the largest systems I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's all mostly empty.
It was huge. It was like you could kill a man with that.
And if you take it apart, it's all empty.
Oh, it's just like one little circuit board in the middle of the thing.
It's an empty case.
Yeah, nothing there. It was gigantic.
It's hilarious.
I've always wondered if the idea was to make it so big you couldn't fit a competitor's system in the same shelf with it.
Maybe shelf space is
you'll
important.
only be able to buy our system.
Yeah, I mean that could very well be. But again, it's called the Atari Gamestation Go. Again, it's coming out in Q3 for $150. Both Matt and I suggest you steer clear. As people who grew up playing these systems, there just really aren't that many good games.
Corey Film's right. If it had Lynx and Jaguar stuff, it would be more interesting.
It would have a lot more value, for sure. Because those games actually still do kind of hold up a little bit.
I mean, at least they're more interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you put Alien vs. Predator from the Jaguar on that thing, I'm going to be more interested.
I at least consider it.
Or Cybermorph, famously a 9.5 out of 10 from Play Magazine.
Yeah.
Atari is back. Come pet the cat. Fucking lunatics.
Next up, we talked about this on GameFace like a month or two ago, that there was a rumor about how the next Xbox is going to come out in 2026 to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Xbox and of Halo Combat Evolved. I don't remember where we settled on that one. Like, I think we both were like, that's wishful thinking. That's really early.
Maybe, but I don't know.
I think it feels
like soon, but also feels like, why would you want to jump the gun on that if you're what good it's going to do you?
Well, I think that would position them for another Xbox 360-ish run. They'd come out way earlier than the PlayStation 6 and get that little head start and hope that Sony screws the pooch with the PS6.
But if there's no more Xbox exclusives, what's the point? Like, why don't you just wait for them to come to PlayStation?
Well, this rumor has resurfaced again. It came back this week. Another reliable source says that the next Xbox is going to be called Xbox Prime. At least that's its working title right now.
If they don't get Peter Cullen for the reveal, they're idiots. I am Xbox Prime.
And this rumor also says that it is coming in 2026, and not that it's necessarily linked in with Halo or the 25th anniversary of Xbox, though it would be. But the big deal here, they're saying, is that it's coming alongside Modern Warfare 4. So one thing that this says to me is that Activision and probably Xbox believe that Modern Warfare is the marquee Call of Duty franchise. Which I think you could make that argument. I prefer Treyarch's games, but other people prefer Infinity Ward's games.
Modern Warfare is what started the boom. So.
It is, yeah. I mean, yeah, the first Modern Warfare is what made Call of Duty what it is today. And so they're saying that the next Modern Warfare, don't forget that they've remade Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 already. And so they've run out of things to remake. They need to make a new Modern Warfare next. So the times are kind of aligning with this, honestly. Like, it's kind of making sense. The other thing that we learned this week, Matt, is that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War from 2020 cost $700 million to make.
Seems inadvisable.
Which is triple the cost of Naughty Dog's games and Insomniac's games. Mm-hmm. And while they do sell double of Insomniac's and Naughty Dog's games, the sales of Call of Duty for the last several entries have gone down. The costs are going up to make the game, and the sales are slowly going down. That is not generally an enviable long-term position to be in. What do you think first of all, what do you think about Xbox launching in 2026? Do you think it's still far-fetched?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who knows what these people think anymore?
Yeah.
I don't know what you do with the Xbox now. So
I think you're just looking to get the jump on the PlayStation.
There is no jump.
Yeah, I mean,
it's over.
It is over. I know.
Like lean into the idea of everything is an Xbox,
which is what you're trying to push on everybody.
The whole thing right now, and stop.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, I could see maybe releasing like a Steam Deck equivalent just to like have some option in that ecosystem for that.
Yeah.
But like, you're already putting everything on everything.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah. Yep. I hear you.
Especially this soon. Like, I get it if you wait a few more years, you have a really significant hardware jump, and you got to keep up with the Joneses when the PlayStation 6 is starting to warm up. But like, this soon, I don't understand the point. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because you're not calling it like Xbox 6 or anything. You're calling it Xbox Prime, which can mean anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It does.
It's not like I don't want Sony to have competition, but it doesn't feel like that's Microsoft anymore.
Xbox hardware does feel kind of pointless and frivolous at this point, per Microsoft's own messaging.
Yeah. Like you're already saying, it's like, okay, you just wait 6 months and you'll get Indiana Jones on play. Okay, so why do I need an Xbox anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, I already don't really need an Xbox to have a gaming PC. But on top of that, if I also have a PlayStation, why do I have an Xbox Series X?
I mean, particularly when games are coming out on PlayStation. In the case of Indiana Jones, just 3 months after it came out exclusively for Xbox. It's like, what's the point of having a console at this point if you're just going to get a 3-month exclusivity window? It just doesn't add up. To me, the 25th anniversary of Xbox and Halo, that makes sense. Something to celebrate there. And if you are going to put out a console, I'd say it probably is smarter to put it out before the next PlayStation.
And if you're going to do that, it should be called the Xbox Chief.
Yeah, the Chief.
The Chief.
I like that, actually. So anyway, just wanted to get this back in front of you guys, that this is resurfaced again, that the next Xbox could come out in 2026 for the 25th anniversary of Xbox.
But also think about how often it resurfaced that the Switch Pro was just around the corner, we swear to God.
Right. And then the OLED Switch never really was the Switch Pro anyway.
No, it wasn't a power boost.
Yeah, it was just a better screen. And they'll probably do the same thing with Switch 2.
Yeah.
I'm pretty convinced that they're going to have like an LED screen on the Switch 2.
Oh, there's no question.
And then to make it cheap, and then 3 years later they'll put out the
an OLED screen that size, you're talking way more than people would pay for a Switch.
It's going to cost some money. It's going to cost some scratch.
There's no doubt that is a regular LED.
Yeah. So things are kind of aligning. Like, for example, Modern Warfare 4 will be due in 2026. The timing is working out for that. So, look, these people could be wishful thinking, but, you're putting your name on the line when you put this stuff out there. And again, these people in the past have been reliable leakers. So
Ashes in the Hourglass also points out it's Gears' 20th anniversary.
Right.
Which is a good point.
Yeah. So it is kind of a confluence.
It's a big year for the Xbox in terms of history.
It is. So we'll see if they actually celebrate it in a big way, or if they'll just do some fun, like, cool stuff with those properties or whatever.
Put Master Chief Collection on PlayStation. That's what they're going to fucking do.
Or Switch too. Yeah.
There's
rumors about
Switch,
that. Yeah.
I admit I would probably buy a physical copy of Master Chief Collection on PlayStation just to have
see it.
That. Just to have a PlayStation copy of Halo.
I know. It's mind-blowing, but that's where we're headed. Everything's changing. So anyway, lots of stuff going on with Call of Duty. Spending $700 million to make Call of Duty games, that's got to change.
Yeah, the mismanagement it's become more and more clear, especially through, I think Schreier was reporting on it too, where it's just like, it's not the graphics, it's not only the graphics, a lot of it's just mismanagement.
Yeah.
And inefficiency.
Yeah. Because you have 4 teams working on the same damn game.
And like just keeping those, everyone talks about how much crazy, like I like to make fun of Star Citizen because it's ridiculous. Everything about that is ridiculous. It's easy and it's ridiculous. But everyone's like, oh, they're Chris Roberts and all those guys are just taking their new yachts to Aruba and stuff. Like, there's no money left over. If they have 2 different studios open making these games, they've had those studios open for almost 12 years. That's about the amount of money they've made that would cost to keep those open.
Yeah.
Like, keeping a development studio open for a year costs a lot of goddamn money. That's most of that $700 million is just keeping those lights on.
Yeah. Now, if you do the math, and you figure each Call of Duty sells 25 to 30 million units or whatever, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, depending on who made it or whatever reviews. That's like $1.5 $3 billion.
Yeah, which you're probably not really breaking even yet because of the marketing money you're spending.
I think the 700 includes the marketing. I think that includes their marketing budget.
They should be clear about that then, because that's a very different
figure. I think the article did state that it included, that's everything, all inclusive. Still, that's $700 freaking million.
Well, also, you got to factor in what people are spending on microtransactions after the fact.
Well, that's the thing. So that's how much it generates before the microtransactions start rolling in. So they're probably making 1.6, maybe.
Right, but the question kind of becomes like, what if you spent $400
right.
million?
And you get.
Do you think it would sell appreciably less?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
I don't think it would either. Yeah. And I think you're going to see that tightening of the belt here as Microsoft and Xbox start to come to grips where all the money's going. They haven't really gone through the whole 4-year cycle of a Call of Duty game being developed yet. So I think once it does that, you'll start to see Microsoft being like, okay, it's time to start to look at doing things a little bit differently here. But right now, my guess is Microsoft and Xbox just don't want to upset the apple cart. They're like, man, we have this cash cow here that's generating insane amounts of money from PlayStation, by the way, which is like, wow, you're making money off your competitor. I think right now they're just like, let's see how things go. We'll look at the processes, see if we can be more streamlined, be more efficient, and then they'll make changes maybe next year, something like that. But I think right now it's just going to be status quo. And to be fair, they're still making insane amounts of money off of the Call of Duty franchise. Profit. And then our final topic for this week's headlines is something that I know probably made Matt pretty sad. And no.
This game was going to suck.
Okay. So a Transformers game, which we haven't got a good one in, I don't know.
One was Fall of Cybertron.
Is that like 2008 or something?
No,
2010?
2011, 2012.
Was it 2012?
It was near the end of X-Play. It was like 2012.
That was the last good one. So here we are, 12 years later. Splash Damage was working on a Transformers game called Transformers Reactivate, and it was just canceled this week. And then the next day, after this game was canceled, somebody who was on the development team just uploaded a bunch of 4K gameplay footage, like 8 minutes of the game. And you'll get to see that here in a minute as we get through this first trailer. What struck me the most, though, going back through this was this trailer. The amount of money that was spent on this trailer. Like the fact that it's just like this very vague teaser that was going to lead to all these other things to come. They don't even really show Transformers in this trailer.
No, the only way you know it's Transformers when you're watching this is that that's Cybertronian.
Right. And at the end, they show them in a room, and there's glimpses of robots in this, but in the end, they show like a Transformer looking down at the scientist or whatever. And that's like the first real clue that you're like, oh, it's a Transformers game. But this game was very far along, and Splash Damage is not a gigantic studio. Like this was
it started as a Certain Affinity.
Oh, it did?
This was Certain Affinity originally.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Splash Damage acquired them, and it's looking more and more like they only got this license to make themselves look more attractive for purchase. And there have been people that worked on it that have basically said it was one of the most mismanaged things they've ever been on.
Really?
I mean, that teaser was 2020 was years and years ago.
Yeah.
Like there's been nothing. They said at the beginning of last year we'd have more information in 2024, and nothing.
Yeah.
Like this was never going to happen.
Is that why you weren't sad when it was over?
Well, that, and I don't really care about an online co-op shooter, free-to-play microtransaction piece of shit.
Is that what this was going to be?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is not Fall of Cybertron. This is an online.
This is not going to be a single-player focused Transformers game.
This is an online co-op shooter. This is Aliens Fireteam Transformers.
I see.
Don't really care. And
I can see why you weren't all that upset about it.
And we also knew how far behind it was because the toys for it came out a year and a half ago.
Wait, they put out toys for this game?
Four toys came out for it. There was a Bumblebee, a Prime, a Starscream, and I want to say I think one more, was it?
Are you kidding me?
No, the toys are in the pipeline. You make the things, they can't sit around, they fucking ship. This happens with late stuff all the time.
Wow.
With toy tie-ins. That's why a movie gets delayed however long and the toys still come out. But like, yeah, the toys for this came out like in 2023. And like everyone's like, oh, I guess this is when the game was supposed to come out originally then, because that's when they scheduled this.
When was that game announced?
This was the game. Wasn't that a Game Awards?
It was,
thing?
Yeah.
Like years and years ago.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long ago though.
I want to say it was at least 2022,
22.
maybe 21.
That's what I think it was, 2022. That's the date that seems stuck in my mind anyway. But I mean, I thought you'd be devastated because I looked at this and it's like this game was a long ways along. It's pretty rare for a game to get canceled that is this
Well,
far
they're
into
the ones who
development.
decided to cancel it.
Yeah. Well, Splash Damage is not a gigantic studio.
No.
Like, they used to just work on mods. Like, their claim to fame for a long time was that they made enemy territory Quake Wars. Like, that was their...
They did the multiplayer for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. They were like a multiplayer support studio.
Their only other, like, non-support role was Brink.
Yeah. And we know what happened there.
What happened to Brink.
Vincent says it is 2022, the Game Awards. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Congrim, good news. There are 3 Beast Wars games. They're not good, but they do exist. There's 2 for PlayStation 1 and 1 for N64, but the N64 one was exclusive to Blockbuster.
That's
so
right.
Good luck getting hold of that one.
That's worth a lot of money. Do you?
I do. I got a friend at Blockbuster, and I'm like, when tell me when that stops selling so I can get it for cheap, and they did. So that's why I got that one.
That's probably worth a lot of money now.
It is worth a fair amount.
Yep.
It's terrible, but it's worth a fair amount. Matter. There's a PlayStation 1 fighting game, like arena, like Power Stone style fighting game called Transmetals, and there is a Beast Wars from early PS1 that is almost like abstract art. Like,
I mean, most PS1 games
you would
were.
never know what. I mean, you can kind of tell the characters are who they're supposed to be, but you're fighting blips and blah. I mean, it is like just random polygons.
Yeah.
It's very not good.
This is pretty clever too. How the studio put the watermark over the footage. Mm-hmm. I've never seen this before. I've seen like static watermarks that repeat, but I've never seen it like this before. To try to keep people from leaking it, but doesn't matter now. The game's canceled. And looking at this footage, like, it's pretty far along, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Is there anything here that looks unique to you?
No.
Is there anything here that looks like, oh, I got to play that?
I mean, I'm a Transformers sucker, so yeah, but not really.
I mean, this doesn't really look any super different from the old Michael Bay tie-in games.
That was pretty cool right there.
Yeah, but you could do that. You could do that in the Michael Bay tie-in games.
I know.
Or the Fall Cybertron game. Like this has all been done before, but then now it's like some weird dystopian post-apocalyptic universe.
It looks like Halo.
Yeah, or they're all fighting on the, like, the idea of this was basically the Quintessons or whoever they are are invading, and so the reason for that was so you could play Autobots and Decepticons,
right?
Because the idea is that they've had to team up because a bigger threat has shown up, which I get, whatever, but also it's like, you're limiting this to like a weird, like, are you ever going to get it in the cool stuff? Are you going to get the Dinobots in here? Probably not. You're going to get the Constructicons.
Well, that would have been DLC, would be my guess.
Eventually, but like, what would you do with that? You know, would you ever get like combiners? Like,
probably not. That part, no.
It's just like, it's like you're cutting out a lot of interesting stuff here that Fall of Cybertron already did and did very well. And if I was going to ask for another Transformers game, I'd just say follow up Fall of Cybertron. Get High Moon out of Call of Duty Hell, assuming anyone who can make anything of interest. Fall of Cybertron hasn't already left the fucking studio. I assume all those guys are long gone by now.
Yeah.
But like, they made really good. That's the best Transformers game for my money is Fall of Cybertron.
Yeah. Still.
And probably number 2 is the fucking PS2 Armada game, where like no one remembers that. That was I
think that's a testament to just how many horrible Transformers games there have been.
That game is legitimately pretty good.
Is it?
The Melbourne House game. Yeah,
I don't remember it.
It was based on Transformers Armada, which was kind of the dark age of Transformers.
Yeah.
That trilogy of anime-based games, like anime-based series, where everything became big and blocky and kind of preschool looking. That was actually the period where I stopped collecting Transformers. But that game was really good, and most famously, it has the Tidal Wave level. Because Tidal Wave was
I remember that.
That's the giant Decepticon ship.
Yeah.
And that level, you play the whole level in him in ship mode, and then he starts to transform, and you have to get out of him. You bust out of him, and the level you were just in transforms into a robot the size of a building, and then you fight him as the boss.
I remember
battle.
that.
It's
that
really good. Like
the
Melbourne House was on a hot streak. They did that. They did 24-hour Le Mans. Melbourne House was one of the best.
They were a good studio at one point. Yeah.
And I don't know what people keep talking about. Like re-releasing all the old Transformers games. Like, you know, and I'm like I've said, like War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, and Devastation will probably get. I think they'll get remastered releases this year.
Yeah.
Because Hasbro wants to do it. Activision was stonewalling them. Microsoft's like, no, we want to do it. And then Activision's like, oh, we do have the source code, it turns out. Sorry. And it's like, so they know that. But like the Melbourne House game published by Atari in 2002, like, I have no idea who would have the source code to that anymore.
I mean, Atari, but
Atari's changed hands twice since then.
Yeah.
So who knows where that is? Like, you'd have to be calling up random Australian game developers and hoping they have a build somewhere at that point.
People every once in a while reach out to me for stuff like that. Like every once in a while I'll get a message on LinkedIn or like on Twitter where someone's just like, hey, I see that you were working in the games industry in the 90s, and do you have a build of blah, blah, blah? Because I work at this conference. Like,
yeah, I've had that a couple of, but all the builds I have like that have our names on them.
Yeah.
So I don't give them out to anybody.
I mean, I don't know if it would matter anymore.
I don't want to. I mean, if
Who wants to test it?
If the company, like I have a early preview build of one of the Assassin's Creeds, but like, our names are all over it.
Yeah.
And like
they would know where it came from.
Ubisoft is still in existence. If it was a company that didn't exist anymore, maybe I'd think about it.
Yeah, maybe more likely. Yeah.
Wait till they find out the early build of Dark Souls I have.
Oh, really?
I do. I have a preview code of Dark Souls.
Interesting. That's probably holds some value.
Some people would probably like a look at that, yeah. But nope, got my name on it.
Yep, not going to give it out. All right, well, there you go. Those are our headlines for GameFace episode 417. We got a couple of big topics. We're going to preview Xbox for 2025. We're going to review Delta Force, which is like the big new free-to-play shooter that's going on right now. But before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, the awesome LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. Well, I hope you guys got to enjoy some LS Cream over the holidays, because I sure the hell didn't, because you still can't buy it at the State Store in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, I had a LS Cream free holiday season. I was not very happy about it. Hopefully, you guys got to imbibe in some of it. But if you don't live in Pennsylvania, go to creamls.com/sifted and find out how to get that stuff delivered to you. In most states, it's not a problem. Unfortunately, in Puritan, Pennsylvania, where everything is weird, it is a problem. But if you go to creamls.com/sifted, you can find a store locator where you can go and pick it up locally. If you have a Bevmo nearby, it's at most Bevmos, depending on the state that you're in. Or again, you can find a way to find it online and get it shipped to you. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. And a big thanks to LS Cream for their sponsorship as we head into 2025. We really appreciate it. It is a great product that we believe in, and that makes sponsorship easy and awesome. Okay, it's time for our Xbox 2025 preview. It was weird preparing for this preview, Matt, because usually what we do is we go platform by platform, and next week we'll have Nintendo and PlayStation probably in next week's show. And usually you're looking at the exclusive games, and that's what you want to focus on, but are there exclusive games anymore? Jez Corden of Windows Central basically reported over the break that there are no Xbox exclusives, that every single game is going to be multi-platform going forward. I tend to think we're going to see what we've seen with Indiana Jones, where it's just a 3-month window, and then off we go. If that, you think maybe day and date we may get this year for
some stuff?
Yeah,
I think some stuff. Yeah, certainly Call of Duty.
Yeah, well, for sure. But it's been...
Is Indiana Jones 3 months, or that was 6 months?
I think it's 3. Yeah, I think it comes out for PlayStation in like March or April, I think.
I thought it was June.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was 3 months.
I admit I haven't been paying that close attention to it.
Yeah.
Because I already have it.
Right. But anyway, I agree. I think that window is going to keep shrinking and shrinking until it gets to a point where it's like...
Vincent says it's spring. They don't have a date for it.
Oh, okay. So it could be 3 months or 6 months. It could be one or the other. That's funny.
I mean, 6 months would technically be summer.
Yeah, it would be. So yeah, maybe it is 3 months. But
I mean,
anyway.
technically wouldn't be summer, but I think most people consider June
June summer.
That quarter is summer.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see. But it's not very long. Is the point?
No, you don't have to wait too long. Certainly, I certainly had friends who were so excited about it that they probably would have bought an Xbox if they didn't know that it was coming to their PS5 in less than half a year.
Yeah, yeah. So compiling like the games to talk about for this, it was like, does this stuff matter anymore? Like,
not really.
It doesn't feel like
I mean,
it
it's
does.
more like the games that are being made by Xbox.
Right.
not the exclusives.
Instead of like the games that you're going to be playing on an Xbox. You're probably going to play most of these. Most of you guys are going to play these on PlayStation. Let's just be honest. That's the truth of the matter. And eventually on Switch too, I'm guessing some of these games.
I was always going to play them on PC. So,
right. Yeah. Well, that's the truth. I mean, the truth of the matter is all these games are also PC games. And also launch day and date on PC.
Yeah.
So to your point, you're right. But one thing I will say is if Microsoft was still going on the old model of we're going to release exclusives only for our platform, and they're going to be, even if they're exclusive for like a year, the year that they have primed in 2025 would be like earth-shattering.
Yeah, they got a banger set up here if it all comes out.
I mean, it's insane. So let's go through these games. We'll talk about them briefly, and then we'll try to guess if they're actually going to come out this year or not. And I have some dates down here that'll help, like as far as like when was the prior game in the franchise released, when was it announced, blah, blah, blah. First up, Fable. So this was announced in 2020. We now have 3 trailers for it. We've not seen a chunk of gameplay yet, just little clips of gameplay in the trailers. What do you think the chances are that Fable comes out in 2025?
Slim.
Really? You think it's slim?
Yeah, I think this is next year.
I was a little more confident than that. I really thought it was going to come out this year. This is the 5th year.
I think this is going to be in the avowed slot for next year. I think it's
Really?
February 2026.
So this is the 5th year since it was announced. So you know that they were doing pre-pro for a year maybe before they announced it or whatever. I mean, that's a long time.
It is.
But it looks like it's going to be a big game.
Yep. And its Playground Games only has so much time on their hands. So my prediction is we are going to get a Horizon this year.
Which we should.
We're about time.
Yeah.
And then Playground will go all hands on deck for 2026 for Fable.
To finish Fable. Yeah. That makes sense.
I would like Fable to be this year, but I don't think it's going to be.
See, I thought we didn't get a Forza last year because they were finishing Fable.
No, I think they're just working on both of them.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I don't know what the deal with... I mean, I think Forza is a more complicated political situation because of Turn 10 and the main series also being kind of involved and also sort of falling on its face a little bit.
Yeah.
I wonder how many egos are involved when it comes to the idea that Horizon's kind of a better regarded series than the main Forza series at this point.
Yeah. I don't think that's even up for debate.
I wouldn't debate it at all. No. No, I think this is next year. Unfortunately,
okay.
I think if it was this year, we would have seen it by now.
Probably
we would have had a gameplay trailer.
Probably at the Game Awards. Yeah. I agree with you. I would probably place it at 50-50 whether it comes out this year. I think there's a chance that it does come out in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think the latest trailer did say 2025. Yeah. I think they will probably say it's 2025, but I don't think it's going to make it. I'm going to give it a 30% maybe chance of making it this year. I believe they will give it a release date for like October, November, but it will slip to early next year.
Okay.
I do not believe we will play Fable this year.
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too, because I really want to play this. This is one of my most anticipated games, honestly. One of my most anticipated.
100%. I just don't think it's coming this year.
Erebus Jones says, something to keep in mind, all these games you're about to go through are going to cost an Xbox gamer €150 in total, €80 if you shop around, and exclusive be damned, that money saved is not nothing. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money. No matter where you're at in life, that's a lot of freaking money, so I hear you, man. But yeah, good precursor to kind of keep in mind as we go forward talking about all these games we're about to discuss. Next up, Avowed, 100% coming out this year.
Coming out next month.
Yeah. I mean, I can't see anything happening with Avowed that would keep it from coming out in 2025. Although this game also was debuted in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big Obsidian RPG, and it's definitely done. Yeah. So... maybe Fable's not that far-fetched, but again...
But they've already had press previews for this and all these. I mean,
oh yeah,
this has gone through the normal cycle already.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen plenty of gameplay for it already, and we've had tons of press previews, hands-on previews, where the press got to play it for hours and hours.
Congram also makes a good point that one of the reasons that Fable might slip out of the end of this year is that nobody wants to go near GTA 6.
Yep. I mean, that's something we need to consider when we do all these previews.
Like, no one wants to get near GTA 6 like for a month.
Yeah.
Like, it might cannibalize the entire sales of the industry.
Man, I don't think it matters. I mentioned this on Ask Shane Anything. I don't think it matters. I think trying to avoid GTA is just stupid because it's not going to be a month. It's going to be like a year or 2 years.
Some sales wise, yes, but I think getting away from like the period where you're not going to be able to break into the zeitgeist or the conversation or the discourse because all anyone's doing is talking about like that is probably smart.
Yeah.
Like, very few things will be able to break. I mean, Call of Duty is probably bulletproof. No pun intended.
Maybe.
I mean, it's a lot of the same people, but no one's going to skip Call of Duty because of GTA, I don't think.
I think GTA, even a year after it's released, is going to be selling like maybe up to 5 million copies a month.
But I mean, like, I'm talking about like, if you put Fable out within a month of GTA, you're not even going to be able to tell the general public that Fable's coming.
No, you're right.
Like, no
people won't even know it exists.
No one's going to hear you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited for Avowed. It was one of your most anticipated games of 2025 in our Game of the Year awards.
Yeah, I mean, it's Obsidian.
It's an Obsidian action RPG.
Basically being let loose to do their first real big open world RPG since, I mean, not super open, like open area since New Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've done other stuff. Outer Worlds was a similar
Which Outer
kind
Worlds
of thing.
2 we're going to talk about in a minute here. Like,
but this is more. It feels more along the tone of New Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's in the Pillars of Eternity world, which I think is a really interesting setting. That I feel like hasn't really been exploited properly.
Not in this way.
I mean, immersively. I mean, I like certainly the second one very much as well. Dreadfire is really good. I mean, who doesn't love a good pirate RPG? But this is a totally different way of approaching this setting, and it looks very cool. And I think it has one of the best covers of the last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that those matter anymore.
Not that the covers matter. You never see the cover in anything.
No one sees them anymore. It used to matter. You go to the store and they'd have all the covers up there.
If we still bought games in stores, that would be a real eye catcher.
It wouldn't matter. Yep. So anyway, that's a given. Avowed is coming out. It's like next month. We're excited for it. We'll cover it here on GameFace. Next up, Doom: The Dark Ages. Now, this game was just announced. However,
sounds like it's coming.
It sounds like it's coming this year. It does. But it's also been like 4 or 5 years since Doom Eternal. So it's due. I mean, it is time for the new Doom game to come. And let's be honest, like, this studio generally makes Doom games on a schedule. They don't delay them. They're very good at budgeting their time and getting things done on time. I still am a little reluctant to say it's coming out this year, but I'd give it like a 70% chance of coming out in 2025.
I'm going to say it's 100%.
Really?
100%. I have no doubts.
So you will draft it next week?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the question becomes what it'll get reviewed as.
Right.
It does look like more of a return to 2016's formula rather than Eternals, which is good for me, but I don't know what reviewers will think.
For sales and reviews, yeah.
I mean, I much prefer the 2016 over
Me too.
Eternal.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But this looks really good.
It does look really good. It looks really fun, and it looks like it's a Doom game. It feels like some of these franchises as we get.
Yeah, I agree with Vincent. Vincent says I bet it's out by Summer Games Fest, 100%. This is an early first half of the year.
Wow, that would shock people. I think if this comes out before June.
I think it will be. I think this is sooner.
But again, the timing's right.
I think it's sooner than you think.
The other thing too is that Bethesda is a lot of times it will show a game and launch that game like 12 months later.
They don't like doing the long form. They mean
other than the Elder Scrolls.
Well, yeah, but I think they didn't feel they had a choice on that.
Right. They were pressured into
And later, I mean, there was that year. I went to I saw Todd later after that year they made that announcement, and I basically congratulated him on making those announcements, and he was like, eh. And now I'm like, oh, no wonder he wasn't all that enthusiastic.
I get it now
because he knew how far out that fucking game was.
Yeah.
And it was probably just like you had to do something to divert from the fact that Fallout 76 was going to be what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and I wouldn't surprise me in the wake of that Starfield Elder Scrolls 6 announcement and the gap between it, if Bethesda kind of has a thing now where it's like we're not announcing shit until it's about to fucking come out. And like good, like absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that's I support that entirely.
Yeah, Doom Eternal was 2020. So we're coming up on 5 years.
5 years is enough time.
Oh yeah, to make a Doom game, it better be. Like it better not take longer than 5 years. So I'm putting it at like 70, 75. I could see where you could be 100 for sure. But I think we can count on, for the most part, Doom: The Dark Ages coming out this year. What do you think about the exclusivity period for it? How long do you think it'll be?
I don't know.
3 months, I think.
Could be, yeah.
That way you get it out. If it does come out in June, Then you get out the PlayStation version in time for the holidays.
Yeah, I would
cha-ching, cha-ching.
like August, September for PlayStation, like May, June for Xbox and PC.
Yeah, that could work out.
I could see that.
Next up, it may sound crazy when I first mentioned this, but when you start thinking about it, Gears of War E-Day. Now, it was just announced last year,
I think this is their big holiday anchor.
Gears 5 came out in 2019. Mm-hmm. So we're like 6 years out from the last Gears game.
I think this is your October game.
Yeah, I mean, this game should come out this year. Nobody wants to believe it.
I think this is why Fable's not coming this year. I think this is their big holiday game.
Okay, that could be.
Which I would prefer Fable.
Yeah.
And I maybe push this to next year for the 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
But
don't forget, this is a prequel to the first Gears of War. This game sets up everything that was to come in Gears of War afterwards. And it's a good way to be able to go back and focus on the characters that people actually give a crap about. It's like they may do a prequel after this, because I guarantee you, this is going to outsell Gears 5 by a ton. And they're going to be like, no, we can't go back to those characters again.
Well, it's also just a more interesting premise.
It is.
I don't dislike 4 and 5, but they were just getting so far away from the original hook.
Yeah.
That it's like, it's, apocalypses aren't that interesting after the dust settles.
Right, yeah.
Then it's just sort of rebuilding.
Yeah, yeah.
And, if you keep bringing back, oh, no, there's more of them. Because it's like, okay, who fucking gives it? It's sort of the problem I had with Fallout 4, where it's just like, okay, we're 200 years plus out from the nuclear war. Why hasn't anyone started a farm or something?
Yeah.
It's just a little ridiculous. And so, going back to the kind of the original, and also you've never had the hardware power to show what Sarah looked like before it was destroyed.
Yeah, that's true.
So being able to see the civilization that gets destroyed by this is going to be you'll have a lot of heft to that storytelling wise. So,
absolutely. People love these characters. This is what people think Gears is.
It'd be cool to see Dom again.
Yeah.
You bring these guys back. It's cool. You get to see why everybody hates Baird.
Yeah.
I guess we already kind of saw that because he got his own game at one point that no one remembers.
Right.
Which I can't even remember the name.
Judgment, wasn't it?
Was it Judgment? Yeah.
I think so.
I always mix that one up with
There's a Judgment spin-off of another
Ascension
franchise, isn't there?
Well, there's also Gears of... Wasn't God of War... Didn't God of War that was Ascension?
Yeah.
Something like there was that period.
There was also like a weird spin-off.
There was that period where we did God of War and Gears of War, which both have the same acronyms.
Right.
We're like, we need to make new ones,
but
we don't want to make another one forward, so we're going to do weird prequels,
spin-off side stories
that no one really understands, made by other companies that don't really tie
That's
in
the thing.
properly.
Most importantly, they were made by other studios. That weren't
I have never
making
played the Gears of War one. I never. Played
I think I did.
I never played Judgment.
I think I did.
I was just like, I was kind of over it by then.
Yeah.
So
most people are kind of over it by after the second.
I think this is probably their big holiday game, but I could see them pushing it to next year or not even trying to get it in this year because it's
because they're packed. They're loaded.
They are packed, but also I can't imagine they have a different Gears project ready for the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, no way.
Unless they're finally doing the remaster of all three of them, which doesn't make any. That's not that exciting.
But if 2026 is the 20th anniversary, they may push it to 2026 to hit that anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense for the 20th anniversary to finally tell the origin story of the whole conflict.
Yeah,
that would make more sense.
We'll see.
Kind of depends whether they care about that.
It really does. Yes. Yep, for sure. Yep. Next up, a game that we were kind of soured on, but now we're not as much, and that is Perfect Dark from the Initiative and 5 other studios that are working on
Dynamics and everybody else.
Anybody else who wants to lend a hand is working on the new Perfect Dark. We were, this game it sounded like it was going through development hell. They were sending a bunch of studios in to work on it. We weren't seeing anything new from it. And then out of nowhere, we get this, which is like a trailer that goes into a gameplay demo that lasts for 10 minutes. Actually, it's not 10 minutes. It's only 3 minutes or whatever. But they show raw gameplay in this, tons of it, which leads me to believe that maybe it isn't as far away as we thought. What do you think the chances are of this game coming out in 2025?
I don't know. I don't really even have any guess on this one.
This to me seems
such a weird project.
Yeah,
such a weird timeline, and we don't have any information.
This to me seems like the most likely game to be pushed if the schedule gets crowded.
If it's
where they're like, oh, we got enough.
If it's even realistically gonna be close to done this year. I just don't think there's any way to know.
I mean, this is the only one of these games we've been talking about other than Avowed, where we've seen just a chunk of gameplay from it.
Right, but also like they're clearly they've already stripped it all back to nothing for one time at least. It sounds like.
Yep.
So who knows?
It really is a wild card.
I don't know why this is such a problem. It's sort of the Blade movie of video games, where it's like, why is this so hard? We've done this already. Like,
because they're completely changing it. Like parkour wasn't a thing that you did in the Perfect Dark game.
But also, but if you want to do, okay, we're gonna put Mirror's Edge in this. Great. That's also been done. Wall running is not a new first-person shooter thing. I don't know what else to tell you.
They're leaning into the espionage part of it more.
Yeah, it's just like kind of like you're being real picky about this to a degree that I don't know if the IP warrants it.
Yeah.
Especially not the amount of time and money you've spent on this.
I mean, Perfect Dark never sold all that well.
That's the thing is like they're going to go through all this trouble and all this time and all this money, and it's going to come out and no one is going to notice.
Like Perfect Dark sold like half or not even of what GoldenEye did. Like,
yeah, I mean there's a lot of reasons for that are not entirely its fault.
Yeah. It was a dying platform.
It was a dying platform. It ran like complete shit.
Yeah, you had to have the expansion pack to play the multiplayer modes.
It was a little too complex for its own. Like it was a little too. Like, it was
ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its time, but I think it had too many options and too many weird things you can do, and people were just like, "Let's just go play GoldenEye."
Yeah.
Like, we went back to GoldenEye after like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And like,
it
was
everybody
what
did.
It was.
Yeah, I played the campaign, and we tried to play multiplayer, and the frame rates were so bad that the multiplayer was really tough. Even with the expansion pack, it just wasn't a great experience. So,
and it was so bad that like people didn't even know what frame rate was, and they still felt something.
Yeah, they're like something's wrong.
Like,
I don't know what it is.
No one could explain what it was.
Well, probably because they were getting nauseous from the frame rate. So anyway,
smooth frame rates are worse for that for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'd give it 25-30% chance of coming out this year,
if that.
Yeah,
like, I just don't know. Like, who knows what they're.
It's really a wild card for sure. Here comes maybe the biggest wild card of all, though. Also, a rare game now, which is Everwild.
Oh, right.
We thought this game was canceled and it was going away, and just towards the end of the year last year,
I'm not dead yet.
Yeah, like
you're not fooling anyone.
Yep, rumors started popping up that like, oh no, they've been working on it all along, and it's like almost done, and it will be shown very soon and could come out very soon. We still also have no idea really what this game is. It's like a monster raising open world.
We don't know. Like the last time they talked about it, they said they were trying to figure out what it
is. Yeah. And I mean, that was like 4 years ago. So
one hopes they figured it out, but like, who knows?
But this is also a wild card. It could be done. Like, it could come out in like a month, or it could still be 3 years away. Like, there's no way for us to know until we get more information about it. And this is not going to be based upon the descriptions of the games that are going to be in it. This is not going to be in the developer direct on January 23rd. So the curiosity around this game is going to go on. We still, again, have no idea what this game is.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be shown this year, but out this year? Who knows?
Yeah. And again, because it's been gone
for so long. Is it a year
we
need barfing koi? I don't know.
But again, because it's been gone so long, I don't think people even have expectations for this. Most people don't even remember it anymore.
No. Like, they're basically going to have to re-debut it and hope it makes an impression.
Yeah. And to be fair, it didn't make that much of an impression when it was originally debuted.
Well, because it doesn't show you any. I mean, it's very pretty, but
dying animals, that'll get you.
Like what is this? You know, there's no way to know what you're looking at, and and then for them to come out after this was put out and be like, oh yeah, we don't really know what the game is yet. It's like, yeah, we know, we can tell.
Yeah, we figured that part out. So anyway, that's Rare's Everwild. Again, we thought it was canceled. It's not. They're still working on it, but it's a complete unknown as to whether it'll come out in 2025. It absolutely could, though. It really, really could.
Next. And then the resurrection of Scalebound.
Right.
Surprise.
Well, next up, another game that Obsidian is working on, The Outer Worlds 2. One of my very good friends, Joe Fielder, who got me my break in the games industry, is the lead writer on The Outer Worlds 2. The trailers for this have been hilarious. The first one that they put out like broke the fourth wall and made fun of other video game trailers throughout the entire trailer. Joe's writing comes shining through there. This game is it is an epic Obsidian game, but the thing about the first game was it was 15 to 20 hours long instead of being like 40 or 50 hours long. So this game could very well be ready and be, the last one came out in 2019.
Looks like this one's way bigger.
Right, they did say it's going to be bigger. But
it took 3 times as long to make, which means it's twice as big.
Yeah.
That's what this trailer literally says that.
Yep. But it's been 5-6 years at this point. So even at that, this game should be ready. Even though Obsidian's also been working on Avowed.
This trailer says it's 2025.
I mean, Obsidian may be Microsoft's best acquisition.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it.
And I think being acquired was the best thing for
Obsidian as well.
I don't think they'd be around anymore.
Right, because they generally take so long to make games that, like, a lot of publishers that work with them are like, man, like, your game's pretty good. It sold pretty well, but for that amount of time, it needs to sell better than pretty well. So we'll see. But I'm pretty excited for this. I really like the Outer Worlds 1.
Yeah.
It was refreshing.
Hey, Microsoft, Alpha Protocol remake. Do it. That game should have been way better than it was.
This could also be one of those games that slips out because of the schedule being jammed up and Obsidian already putting a game out.
But I think this is one of the games that... This is more of an 800-pound gorilla than I think some people give it credit for.
Yeah.
If they can get Avowed out next month and this out in like October, November...
What a year.
What a year for Obsidian.
It's insane. It really is insane.
You want to talk about delivering.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So I'm really excited for this game. I hope it makes it out this year. I'll give this a 70% chance of making it.
I'd say about 70.
Yeah, I think that's where it
lands.
I
do love this, where they're just like, Obsidian makes the best twos.
Yeah. This trailer's great. Like,
Fallout 3, 2.
Yeah, it sucks that you can't hear the audio.
Like, that's kind of 2. And that does. I didn't know Joe was writing this, but now that you say that, yeah, that is.
He has that dry wit,
yeah.
And he also understands the industry very, very well. He's a journalist for like the first 20 years of his time in the industry. So yeah, it aligns. And then the final game we can discuss, and again, this may sound crazy until you really get the data and think about it. State of Decay 3.
Yeah.
The last State of Decay came out in 2018. It's been 7 years since...
Although apparently that company is just a mess.
Yeah.
So who knows?
But still, it's been 7 years since the last one. Like, it kind of has to come out.
No, it doesn't. This could still be... I mean, there's a lot of weird shit happening with Undead Labs.
We did get a second trailer last year. The first one was CG. The second one just shows a little smattering of in-engine stuff, finally. It's due. Like, it's time for this game to come out.
It's long overdue, but that doesn't mean anything's happening.
Well, the other problem, too, with
they
this...
They basically had to clean that place up.
Yeah.
It was all this nonsense.
I mean, this franchise is usually launched broken. We should add.
They are janky-ass games.
Usually, their games are
I went back and played some of 2 last year, like mid-last year, I think. And the funny thing was, like, you know, to the credit of Xbox, they do keep those cloud saves working pretty well.
Do.
I hadn't played that game in years.
Yep. And still, you're able to boot it up.
And I loaded it up, and it uploaded the save, and I went over and installed it on PC, because I have it on both, because it shares your account. And I installed it, and it would crash. I'd load the save up, and it would crash after 15 seconds. No matter what I did, no matter where I went, no matter what I was in, menus, gameplay, anything, the whole thing would just die on me.
Yeah.
And I went and I started a new game, and I played for a little through the main tutorial part, and then I quit out, and just out of curiosity, I loaded my old save. It's fine.
It worked.
Whatever updates they'd made since the last time I played in like 2016 or whatever, 2018.
It fixed it.
It couldn't fix it in the game from the old save, but when I loaded up a new save, whatever it needed to do, it did, and now it worked on my old save. I'm like, I don't know what that was, but that's a nice little testament to how long it's been since I loaded this up.
Yeah.
And it is still pretty janky, but it's still fun. There are no other zombie games like this. That's the thing. It's like
it's a one of one.
It is a simulation of surviving in a zombie apocalypse that actually functions like a fun action game and not like a weird simulator with like where you have to worry about how much you drank today or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And like you're managing all these different settlements, and it's got all these scenarios you can load up now, and like there's online stuff and offline stuff, and the characters are consistent, and you can build them up, and like if one of them dies, it's a fucking tragedy.
It is, yeah.
Because you like get to know all of them. You
can spend a lot of time, and then they just die.
Because like some of them are a lot better than others, and like going into a nest is actually really like a really scary thing, a really risky thing to do sometimes. Like it's really cool. I would love to play one that uses modern tech and uses modern ideas and stuff, but like I'm not gonna hold my fucking breath on this one. Jesus.
I give that it's 50-50 for me.
I'm gonna go lower.
It should be out, but it's Undead Labs. So
if you hadn't brought it up, I wouldn't even have thought of it.
Really?
Interesting. Wouldn't even have thought of it. I will think this is coming soon when I don't
we
know.
see gameplay.
We see some gameplay, and someone says like, "Yeah, really? No, it's actually happening. We got past our weird organizational and,
I mean, that studio
and
sounded like it was a
problem.
mess.
Oh, it was a disaster. It sounded like.
Yeah. So there you go. Those are the games that I plausibly think could come out this year. There's other games that Xbox working on that I didn't even think were in the realm of reason for 2025. But hot damn!
Like what?
Oh, can't remember now. It was like games that were like more PC centric games. But you're right. Like this is the vast majority of the stuff that's announced by Xbox right now. There's not a lot outside of this. Obviously, you have Call of Duty that I didn't mention because it's for obvious reasons. It's also obvious that it's coming. So,
Forza Horizon.
Yeah, the next Forza stuff like that.
I think we will see a Horizon this year.
So yeah, we should. I mean, because usually it's every other year and they missed it. So
They
this
missed
year
it by a lot.
Yeah,
because of I think Forza.
Yeah. Which was also a failure. Yeah.
And and they are, the Fable is a separate side. It's half and half from what I understand. The Playground Games is able to work on two things at once. So. And it's not like I understand why Fable takes a long time, because you got to reinvent that IP. You got to do something new with it. You got to like make it into something that works as a modern thing. Horizon's a solved equation.
Yeah.
You just got to find a new setting, basically.
I mean, ultimately that was 7 games that we talked about. So if you work it out so that you release one every 2 months, which is about what you should be doing.
Yeah, that's a fine.
I mean, that's what the year should look like for Xbox every year, honestly.
Beats the hell out of what Sony's got laid out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it could have a bunch of stuff we just don't know.
We don't know yet. Yeah, but it's better than what we got last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's shaping up to be a pretty good year for Xbox. If it did follow the old model, it would be a kick-ass year for Xbox. But now with the way things work with Game Pass and everything going multi-platform, it doesn't have the same impact that it used to. But still, if Microsoft had stuck to its guns and stayed on that old model, this could have been like a turning point year for Xbox. But
yeah, that's a lot of pretty good stuff to hold hostage on your platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go.
In the old model.
Yeah.
But I guess we're in a brave new world now.
We are. I don't brave or stupid, depending on your perspective.
Sometimes those two things are the same.
They are the same. Yeah. So there you go. That's the 2025 preview for Xbox. Vincent says, what about whatever Double Fine's working on? Yep.
South of Midnight.
Is South of Midnight an Xbox exclusive?
It's an in-house thing,
is it?
I think it is. It is made by one of their teams.
Okay, I didn't know that, actually.
South of Midnight looks great.
Yep. Erebus brings up some more. Oh, Claire Obscure 33 or whatever. That's another one.
Towerborn.
He's mentioned some of the more indie stuff. Towerborn, Atomfall. Atomfall, is that an Xbox exclusive? I didn't think it was, but I could see it being, but I wasn't sure that it was. But anyway, that's a pretty damn good year for Xbox that we got coming up here. So if you are one of the people who did buy an Xbox Series X this year, I think you're going to get a lot of your value out of that machine that you've been waiting to cash in for quite a while now at this point. It should be a great year on Xbox and on Game Pass and on PC, because all these games are dropping day and date on PC as well.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, I will believe when it's in my hard drive. Thank you.
Yep. I don't see that one coming. So there you go. That's Xbox for 2025. We have one more topic to get to in today's show. We're going to review Delta Force, which is a free-to-play shooter that has been kind of the rage now for the last couple months. I jumped on it. I started playing it before the break. Didn't play enough of it to be able to review it here on GameFace, and then left for break. And then when I came back, I jumped back in. I started playing it some more. It is kind of a combination of Battlefield and extraction shooter. So there are 3 modes in the game. There's a Battlefield-like huge map, 64-player head-to-head multiplayer mode. And then there's a 3-player cooperative extraction shooter where you go through 4 or 5 different maps, collect loot, get to the extraction point, extract out. And then there's also a single-player campaign called Black Hawk Down, which I think was a part of this game when it was originally worked on back in like 2009 or something. Is that right?
I don't know.
I think this game comes from like 2009 2009. There was like a single-player Black Hawk Down thing that like never was finished. It was like made the rounds with the press. Well, they're still working on it. It's still not playable in this, like the single player Black Hawk Down mode. So all you have right now, and again, it's free to play. You can go download it. This game is PC only, I should also add. So there's 2 modes. The first mode is that I'm going to discuss anyway. It's called Operations Mode. It's the extraction option I talked about for up to 3 players. The problem is that nothing exciting ever happens in this. Like, when you play cooperative modes with people, generally it's like you're fighting tons of rank and file enemies. You fight a wave of those, then you fight a mini boss, and then eventually you fight like a real boss, and then you hope you have anything left that you can extract and get out with. This game really isn't like that at all. Like, it's three of you kind of traipsing through these, and I mean gigantic levels. And when you first start, they show you a map, and they show you, like, here's a point where you can get a bunch of loot. Here's a place where there's, like, a mini-boss you can fight. Here's a place that has a bunch of other things you should investigate or whatever. And they basically show you right from the beginning where the best loot is on the map. And so, obviously, everybody just runs to that first loot point. And along the way, you may fight a couple soldiers here and there or whatever. And it does get harder as you play, as you, like, build up or whatever. But it's still, like, way too easy, and there's still way too much downtime. And I'll be honest with you, even though they show you a map and put icons on the map, almost every match I played of the extraction option, my teammates were going, what do we do now? Where do we go now? What do we do next? Because the maps are huge, and there's these points on the map that they show you where to go, but, like, there's just not enough in between. Like, there's just so much downtime that you wonder, like, there's got to be something that I'm missing. There's got to be something that we're supposed to be doing that we're not doing. And you can hear it from everyone you play with. They're like, where are we supposed to go? What are we supposed to do? You'll come across, like, a door that needs, like, a code to get into it. So it, like, piques your interest. You're like, okay, we need to get in here. Obviously, this is locked. There's probably good loot behind there. Then it sets off on this, like, 45-minute thing of you working with your two teammates trying to figure out where you get the code to open the door, blah, blah, blah. You can waste a lot of time in this. And again, it's an extraction shooter. So if you waste a lot of time fiddling around, you don't extract with all the stuff you get, you can also get caught in this game where, like, an enemy just pops around a corner and shoots you in the head, or you run into, like, a mini boss that has a chain gun who steps out of a tent and just mows you down, and you lose, like, everything that you've been working. I mean, it's an extraction shooter. You can spend a lot of time playing it and go and get killed before you ever extract, and you lose everything. Now, one thing this game does do is it gives you these tickets. So even if you fail and you die before you extract, you will get, like, this ticket that they give you that is basically a ticket to a loadout that will help you along the way. So if you keep dying and you're not extracting and getting stuff in your extractions, the game still helps to try to nudge you along, basically, and say, well, here's this ticket that you can use that will give you some weapons that are worthwhile to use in your next run. It doesn't just leave you completely high and dry, starting over again. I think that's important, and I think it's a good idea that they did that. But yeah, there's just 4 playable levels. You learn those pretty quickly, but again, they're gigantic. Like, there's this one map that's, like, set in a dam, and I think you literally walk, like, 3 miles before you get to the extraction point. And the first time I played through it, I think I killed 4 enemies the entire time, Matt. So to me, there's just not enough action in the extraction mode. You can also come across human teams, but I literally, and all the time I played this, I came across a human team twice. And the other part about it is because it's an extraction shooter, people are afraid of each other. Like, you know that other team has the best loot that you're probably going to find, but you also know that they're way more difficult to kill than the AI-driven enemies that you're fighting. So it's like a risk-reward thing. You're like, do I want to fight these guys? Because if they kill me, they're going to get all my stuff, and I don't know how good they are. I've been playing with them. They can have a ringer on their team that's going to light me up. So what happens when we came across other human teams? We ran from each other. Everybody was like, nope, I want to extract and get my stuff out. And again, that just is part and parcel with extraction shooters. It's not unique to Delta Force. It's a part of the game. Now you're seeing some of the characters in the game. I think there are 11 playable characters at launch. And you can see, while they do have unique abilities, they all basically look the same. Like, there's not a lot of personality, and I think Call of Duty suffers from that too. That's why you see Call of Duty doing partnerships with, like, Squid Game and all these pop culture, Snoop Dogg and all these people to make it more fun and more culturally. I don't think that's a word, but I just made it up. This game has not done that yet. You're really just stuck with the generic rank and file soldiers. Here you're seeing some of the guns. Like, if you're a big Call of Duty fan, this game has all the same stuff as Call of Duty. It really is really impressive as far as, like, your guns, and then each gun has 11 attachments, and as you use a gun, it levels up. So if you find a gun that you really like, the more you use it, the better it gets, and the more attachments you can attach to it. All the stuff you're used to from Call of Duty multiplayer, it's all in here. And again, this game is 100% free. So the third mode, I already talked about the single player that's not there yet. I talked about the extraction mode. The third mode is called Warfare, and it is a big team battle mode with 64 players. It is basically Battlefield. There's no team deathmatch in this entire game. Those are the only two modes. You have Warfare and you have the extraction mode. Now, Warfare has a couple different variants, but the one that everybody plays and the one that if you just boot it up and play, you're going to end up playing is Attack and Defend. And it's cool. Like, it's asymmetrical in a way. There's 32 players on each team, but if you're the defending team, you get as many respawns as you want. But the other team has a limited number of respawns, but they have all the vehicles. And it does feel a little unbalanced at times, but what I found is there's an ebb and flow to it. So the beginning of the match, you have this point if you're defending that's right up on the front lines. And the other team basically takes it right away. And the first couple games, I was like, this sucks, man. I'm like, we can't defend this. As you play it, you start to realize you're not supposed to be able to defend that point. There's the attacking team is supposed to be able to overrun that very quickly with their vehicles, and then you need to retreat. But here's the thing, like Battlefield, you can choose where you spawn before you spawn, basically. You can choose a point or whatever. Much like Battlefield, there's a lot of this game where you spawn, there's no vehicle nearby you, so you have to run to the front line. You get within 50 yards of the front line, some sniper snipes your ass, you die, you respawn and you run again. And there is a lot of that. Just like Battlefield, there's a lot of running a mile and then getting sniped and having to run a mile again. But as the attacking team starts to take the points, you don't have to run as far. So not only do you have unlimited respawns, you don't have to run as far to the point to start defending the point. So you don't lose 8 lives just trying to find some place where you can lay down and snipe people or shoot people as they're rushing in to take your point. So it has a great ebb and flow to it, but it does still have a lot of the caveats of Battlefield that become annoying over time, where you're just running a mile, sprinting, you come up over a hill, you get sniped, you die, and you start all over again. There's a little bit of that in this, but the way that they've modeled the attack and defend mode, I feel like it alleviates at least a little bit of it, and in my opinion, makes it a more fun and balanced game than Battlefield. You can't have, in this game, in Battlefield, you can have 3 snipers who are really good, and they'll just rule the game. In this, that doesn't happen, because they have the moving line of war and the moving control points. As they take points, you spawn more quickly as a defending team. It's much quicker to get to the points to defend, and it creates this great ebb and flow of back and forth. Much like Battlefield, sometimes it's fun to just sit back and watch the battle take place, watching all the vehicles roll in. Also, like Battlefield, piloting any airborne vehicles in this, you might as well just learn how to pilot the real freaking thing. I have no idea why Battlefield does it, why this game does it. I can fly a helicopter in dozens of other games, but trying to fly it in this game or in Battlefield, forget about it. I understand they're they're really effective and there's a, cost benefit and now. No. I should be able to jump in a helicopter and fly the helicopter around and fire rockets.
Well, even with the learning curve, and that was always Battlefield was learning curve of the flight stuff. The thing that always blew my mind was that there was no way to practice it. One of the reasons I was bad at helicopters in the Battlefield games was you got in a helicopter and you got 4 seconds before it flipped over or somebody shot you or whatever. How is there no practice mode where I can just learn how to fly a helicopter properly? And if you're going to make it that convoluted, how come you don't let me try it and learn how to do it? Because guess what real soldiers would do?
Practice. Yeah. So actually, I did not find a practice mode in this either. So I don't know if it's there. Maybe it is tucked away somewhere. I did not see it anywhere. I just stuck with ground vehicles because it's I jump, to your point, I'd jump in a helicopter. I'd either fly it and crash within 10 seconds or someone would fly by with a jet and just wipe me out. And I was just this isn't any fun. So I tend to just stay on foot or just use the ground-based vehicles for the most part. And that was fun as well, too. It's still fun to get in a tank or an APC and run over the other team. And that is another thing that's cool about this is because you'll lose a point and then the other team is always going to that next point to defend that next point. You take a vehicle into that next point, man, you can cause some carnage. You can literally, it's almost like Carmageddon. You can run over 10 or 15 guys in a one run or whatever, which is kind of fun and kind of frustrating if you're on the defending team. But you've seen there's turrets in this game you just come across. You can jump in a turret and start fighting. There's zip lines everywhere. You're about to see in a minute here. I zip line from here all the way down to that battle. And the whole time you're zip lining, you can start seeing the enemies. You can start getting figuring out where the vehicles are, where the line is as far as where the battle's taking place. You can kind of prepare for it as you're zipping down the line. So here's the thing. This game doesn't really do anything that's unique. And I will add as well, like, it's free to play, and it's not free to win. Like, you can't pay to get a more powerful gun in this. It's just going to wipe the map. Like, you have to build it up yourself and earn it. Most of the money that you spend in this is for cosmetics, and there's cosmetics for everything. For your guns, for your character models, for every vehicle in the game, and that's where they're trying to make their money. So this game is free. It's not like freemium or pay to win or anything like that. It is legitimately free to play, and I do feel like that economy is very balanced. But it does nothing unique at all. It is literally just copying like other games, but it's free. And I'll just say it, Matt, it is amazing that games of this quality are free. They've been working on this a long time. Obviously, its earlier incarnations were from like 2009. It's not like they just whipped this out in 2 years or whatever. They've dedicated a lot of time to this, but this game is free. And I'll just say this, I enjoyed this more than Battlefield 2042, because that game was a broken mess, and it was a paid game. So I was pretty impressed with Delta Force. Again, it is not groundbreaking. You're not going to be able to do stuff in this game you haven't done in other games or you haven't done in Battlefield, but it looks great. It plays great. The modes that it has right now are more than enough to sustain it. I was just really, really impressed with Delta Force. I had a ton of fun with it. I'm still playing it. I will probably continue to play it. It has started to already take some time away from Black Ops 6 for me, which isn't easy to do because that game's also really great in multiplayer. But look, if you like games like this, but you struggle to rationalize paying $69.99 for a multiplayer first-person shooter, a lot of people will buy Call of Duty and they'll never play anything but the multiplayer. If you're one of those people, like, this is a great alternative. It's not a great alternative for Call of Duty per se, but it is a really, really good alternative for Battlefield. So if you're a fan of that franchise and you're like, I didn't like Battlefield 2042, and God knows when the next one is coming out, but I want to scratch that itch, Delta Force is great. Again, it's completely free. Just download it. I never felt the need to ever pay for anything in this, ever. And I'm not a cosmetics guy. Like, I don't buy hats and other goofy stuff in any other game. That's not, I just want to be able to play the game. And if you're like me, this game delivers in spades. Like, again, for being free to play, it's amazing. It's amazing we're living in an age where games like this are free. Like, this would be like a groundbreaking game back in 2012 or whatever that people would gladly.
Back when they were originally making it.
Right. Back when they first started making it. It probably was originally made to be a paid game as well. And over time, they're like, well, that ship sailed. So anyway, I had a blast with Delta Force. I'm still having a blast with it. Also, the other thing about it is there are so many people playing it. Like, you get new games, like, right away. Like, as soon as you're like, yep, I'm ready to play another game, 64-person match, ready to go. And again, that's an advantage of being a free-to-play game. So I'm hoping they're making enough money off the kids who love the cosmetics, because they're not making any money off of me. Here you can see the prices of some of this stuff. Like, guns are like $1 or whatever. Like, I think they handle the monetization of this game pretty well. And now this B-roll, you're going to see that, it has everything that's in Call of Duty. It has all the same cards, all the same sprays. It has kill emotes. It's really crazy. I mean, you do start to wonder if at a certain point, Activision is like, man, like, we either need to lower the price of Call of Duty or we need to start doing something else, because these games are catching up, like, big time. Again, 100%.
As long as they're only on PC, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And my guess is this will not be only on PC for all that long.
You would think.
I mean, they're smart. Here you can see all the vehicles that are in the game. And again, you can skin all those with stuff that you can pay for. I will say this. I did not stumble across a lot of free cosmetics, which I don't care because I don't use them anyway. But I never unlocked, like, cosmetics to use in the game, which is a little weird, admittedly. But I unlocked tons of guns. Like, the guns unlock at a good rate. The attachments unlock at a good rate. And I think, honestly, they just copy Call of Duty for the most part, which is fine. Because Call of Duty's been done it for a long time and kind of figured out the formula. So, I'm impressed with Delta Force. I thought it was really good. Again, it's free to play. It's only PC. You can go download it. This is the game I was talking about earlier, where I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad that I built my PC. Obviously, this B-roll is at 1080p, 30 frames per second. But when I'm playing it in full 4K. High frame rates. It looks gorgeous on my rig. So it did make me feel a little bit better, one, about NVIDIA announcing the 50 series cards, and two, that I spent all that money upgrading my PC last year. I'm finally getting a little bit of use out of it instead of just trying to play a game I would have normally played on a console on my PC. And we'll see how long that lasts.
Which still looks way better than it looked on a console. So.
What'd you say?
Which still looks way better than it does on a console.
Yeah, I'm guessing it absolutely will. So there you go. That is Delta Force. As it Saber Juno says, if you can't beat them, copy them. Yeah, I mean, that's not just in games. That's in everything. Music, anything. Like, if you're not learning from the masters, what are you doing? Honestly. It helps you jump a lot of hurdles that you would struggle to jump yourself in a lot of ways. So, Nightwing 3060, are there vehicles in the game? I think the B-roll just answered that one for you, but yeah, absolutely. Kongrim1 says, I thought Warzone was that answer. That's a good point, actually. Warzone, for whatever reason with me, has never clicked. And I love Call of Duty, but I don't like playing Call of Duty in that setting, in that big open world setting. I feel like the Battlefield aesthetic generally works better in those kind of settings than Call of Duty does. And for whatever reason, I just never really latched on with Warzone. But that is a good point. It's also free to play. So if you are looking for something a little more like Battlefield and not like Call of Duty in that same type of open world, big battle setting, then I think Delta Force is a great choice.
Probably has a smaller install, too.
Swan Senpai says, Warzone is pay to win. I've never heard anyone say that, actually. But I wouldn't know because I don't play it. I'd play it enough when we get it so I can talk about it here for 2 minutes when we talk about it on GameFace. But other than that, I never stick with Warzone. I never play it. And I have nieces and nephews that's all they play, Fortnite or Warzone, blah, blah, blah. But it's just never really resonated with me, so I don't play it. Okay. That's it for our reviews for GameFace. But we do have one more thing. And of course, that is... All right, so we're going to play Name That Game, but here's the thing. We're only going to do it for a couple weeks because we have something else coming in February that is going to replace it. I'm not going to spoil it here on this episode, but we're going to do the traditional Name That Game today where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt. The good news is that the year just turned over, so everybody is eligible again to win Name That Game. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Please make sure that you play PC games because if you win, you get a free PC game, courtesy of SIFTD. So make sure that you do that. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that our chat is in slow mode. You can only input one chat every 60 seconds. Otherwise, it will just cut you off. So make sure you choose wisely and you pick wisely. Don't just spam the chat with a bunch of random game titles. You will never get it right and you will never win. Matt, you've been on a run. Like, you've won, I think, 3 of the last 5 Name That Games or something?
Maybe.
Yeah, you've been doing pretty damn good.
That was a long time ago.
Well, like, it was last year, man.
Yeah.
It was at least, like, a month ago. So, anyway, I have 5 screenshots. Are you ready, Matt?
Sure.
Are you guys ready to play Name That Game? Again, it may be one of the last times we played the screenshot version of this for quite a while, so everybody get ready. All right. Here we go with the first image for Name That Game in 3, 2, 1, go. And as always, a ground texture. Do you know the ground texture? Broken Age, no.
Full Throttle.
Overwatch, no. Full Throttle, no. Oh, we have a winner already. It's Disco Elysium. Cinetyke got it already. Wow.
Yeah, that art style. Yeah.
That is impressive, Cinetyke. Nice, brother. Wow. Well, that didn't last long. I did a lot of work for nothing. Great job, Cinetyke. Here's the other screenshots. Here's screenshot number 2. Here's screenshot number 3. That one would have given it away.
Yeah, that's the starting room.
Yep. Here's number 4. And see, it has the little prompts on the far left there that would have definitely given it away.
I did know it was a point-and-click game.
You did. Yep, you did. And then here's the last one. If you didn't recognize that texture, then you probably didn't play it. So, great job. Once again, another round of applause for Cinetyke. Cinetyke's also a great member of our community at SIFTD.net. It's always good to see people like that win Name That Game. Congratulations, Cinetyke. Just get in touch with me. And I'll get you your free game. And I know you're a PC gamer, so it's going to be very easy to get you your free game. It's a struggle sometimes to do this. I have to like become friends with people on Steam. I have to go back and forth a couple times to get you your games, but it'll be easy with Cinetype, who also, by the way, helped me build or upgrade my PC last year, and I appreciate that very much. Zet Saber Juno says, do you think Marcus will give Delta Force a try for nostalgia? I mean, is that a joke?
No, he
worked on it back in the day.
He was on PR for some kind of Delta.
It was
Delta Force Black Hawk Down thing.
It was. That was him. Yep. He lost everything. His gaming PC.
Yeah, he doesn't have a PC, and if he gets a new PC, I would imagine that wouldn't be the first thing he'd play.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be playing games for a while. And Zet Saber, maybe you just didn't realize it. Maybe you didn't make it to the show early enough. But Marcus, his house burned down in the SoCal fires. And again, that's why the GoFundMe is pinned to our chat. And before I go again, please, if you can, click that link that's pinned to chat right now and give some money. Every dollar matters. Even if you only give them $1, like that's cool. Like it doesn't matter. Like every dollar makes a difference. You got to realize they have to buy everything. So every spoon, every ladle,
also like a lot of this is like immediate stuff. You know, insurance is theoretically going to pay for like the reconstruction, but they got to live now.
Yeah, and so I think they've found a decent living situation. I think they have like a permanent place to stay now.
Yeah, well, because like that is one thing like people need to know is like if you report to your insurance, you've got to report to the insurance company that you need somewhere to be, and it's basically a thing you lock in that like basically equivalent living circumstance. Mm-hmm. So you basically get locked in an equivalent price and an equivalent dwelling space. So like you're not going to have a huge hit to your quality of life, even already you have obviously, but like you actually get a place to live in the meantime that is somewhat similar to what your house was.
Because here's the thing,
that's going to create also another, because you have thousands of people that are going to be doing that, and there's only so much housing.
Well, they have to wait for the city to come in and detoxify the whole area, because the other thing is like the flame retardant that they've been dropping on Los Angeles. When it burns, it is toxic.
It's toxic. Well, also you also have to remember a lot of the places in Pacific Palisades, and especially Altadena, were built in the 40s to the 60s. Lots of asbestos, lots of lead, like and all that's in the air and in the soil now. Yeah. So there's a lot of cleanup that's to be done beyond just the normal fire cleanup.
Like, I don't know if you got ash here, but our cars were completely covered in ash.
I busted out the N95s for the first time since the pandemic, like the full N95 like respirators, because I could not. When I went outside just to take the garbage out, I couldn't breathe.
We had to leave all our doors shut and run the air conditioning. We couldn't leave the doors open because it literally smelled like someone was smoking a cigarette in our place.
Yeah, I had the fan. I didn't even have the air conditioning to heat. I just had the fan circulating because you had to filter the air here.
Yeah,
and it did. Once they put that one fire out on the mountain near Hollywood, it did. When Sunset Fire was out, the air was cleared up by 24 hours later, but for about a day there was literally no sunlight here on Thursday.
I walked out of our place on Sunday morning, and it looked like there had been a dusting of snow. There was so much ash outside of our place.
So when I went to, it was like fairly late at night when I went to go refuel, just in case I might have to evacuate, because I knew I was gonna have to drive pretty far and maybe would end up in traffic. I wanted a full tank. I wanted like water. I wanted everything. So I went and got that stuff. And I have the front of my driveway has an automatic gate that opens, as you know. Mm. It would not work.
No,
because there's a safety thing where if there's a laser thing, and if it detects something breaking the laser from the reflector on the other side, it's a safety mechanism that stops it from moving. And there was so much ash in the air that it couldn't see the bounce back of the laser from the reflector on the other side of the gate. Mm-hmm. So it didn't work. And then I'm like, is it broken? And the next day when the ash had cleared up out of the air, I went and tested it, and it worked fine.
Okay.
So that's how much ash was in the air, was like electric eyes couldn't see through it.
It was crazy.
It was very, very not like anything I'd ever been in before.
Oh yeah, we opened our sliding glass door for a little bit to let some fresh air in, because we had everything closed up for like 4 or 5 days. We had it open for 45 minutes. I close it. I looked at one of my black speakers. There is ash flying inside our place. Like tons of it. Like it was snowing in our place.
Up in Glendale and Burbank, there were literally ash flurries the next morning.
It's crazy.
Like snow. Like it was surreal.
We've been through it, people, but we're LA strong. We're still here. Big thanks to everybody in our chat. You guys once again made this show better as usual. Thanks to everybody who gave us Twitch Prime. So many of you. In fact, I think I may have missed a couple people. in the middle of the show that subscribe. I apologize. You guys know I try to thank all of you guys for that. I really do appreciate it. Here's one. Swan Senpai, thank you for Twitch Prime. And we are supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. If you like the show, you're listening to it on any of the podcast services out there, you'd like to make sure the show continues, go to patreon.com/SIFTD. Give us a pledge for just $4 a month. You get all our content early. For $2 a month, you get Pachter Factor early. If you have no money, you can help us out with Twitch Prime. That'll get you Pachter Factor day and date with our patrons if you hook it up with Twitch Prime. Just go to twitch.tv/SIFTDgames to watch those episodes. And if you don't have any money and you don't have Amazon Prime, you can still help us just by reviewing the show, liking the show. I just did a spot check at Spotify. No one's reviewing the show there either, even though hundreds and hundreds of you guys are watching it every week. It just takes a second. You're getting the show for free. We don't even have ads running against our show on Spotify. I know, because I've been trying to get that hooked up for the last 2 weeks, and it is a nightmare. So you're getting our show ad-free. You don't even have to listen to the ads on Spotify at all. Take a second to review the show. It can make a big difference for us. And that goes for all of you anywhere on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. It doesn't matter where you're listening to this show. Review the show. Even if you hate it, and give us a 1 star. The review will pop us up still. Just because you cared enough to leave that review, it would make a big difference for us. We'd really appreciate it. But of course, the best thing you can do is go to patreon.com/SIFTD and give us a pledge. So this is it. This is the last GameFace in the form that you guys know it as. This is the last 3-hour episode of GameFace you guys will ever watch. So big changes coming for the show. I think they're all for the better. I think you guys are going to enjoy it, but we'll have to wait and see. But much love to you guys showing up today in the chat, watching it live. We appreciate it. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.